Humans have been carving giants out of stone long before written history. Across deserts, jungles, mountains, and city ruins, these massive statues still stand where their builders left them, guardians of faith, power, and memory. In this video, we explore of the most impressive ancient monuments ever created, from towering Buddhas to stone sphinxes, lion guardians, and forgotten megaliths. Each chapter shows how entire cultures shaped their identity through stone, and why these works survived long after their kingdoms disappeared. The humongous Moai Tukuturi, kneeling statue. On the eastern side of Rano Raku, the quarry where most of Easter Island's Moai were carved, stands a statue unlike any other on the island. Known as Tukuturi, this kneeling Moai breaks nearly every rule of traditional Moai design. While other statues stand tall with long torsos, straight backs, and rigid postures, Tukuturi sits in a kneeling position, with rounded features and a more human-like appearance. This single statue has sparked decades of debate about its purpose, its origins, and its connection to the island's changing cultural traditions. Tukuturi is carved entirely from a different type of volcanic stone than most Moai. Instead of the light, easily shaped tuff that dominates the quarry, this statue is carved from a heavier, redder stone. Its rounded head, defined facial features, and full beard distinguish it even further. The beard alone sets Tukuturi apart, since almost no other Moai show this detail. The statue's posture, knees folded, body leaning slightly forward, resembles a traditional Polynesian sitting position used during ceremonies and chants. This posture has led researchers to connect Tukuturi to the Tangata Manu, or Birdman cult, which emerged on the island centuries after the main Moai building period. The statue stands roughly 4 meters tall, though its exact dimensions are hard to measure because part of its lower body is buried. Unlike other Moai, which were transported from the quarry to ceremonial platforms around the island, Tukuturi appears to have remained near its place of carving. Its location on the eastern slope suggests it marked an important boundary or ceremonial point late in the island's history. The combination of posture, location, and stone type indicates that Tukuturi may have belonged to a period when carving traditions were shifting. Archaeologists studying Tukuturi noted that the carving style differs significantly from earlier Moai. The features are more naturalistic, with sculpted details around the eyes, nose, and mouth. The torso has rounded shoulders and clear muscle outlines. These traits suggest that the carver was experimenting with a new artistic direction. Some researchers propose that Tukuturi was created after large Moai production declined, reflecting an era when the island's social and ritual systems were undergoing change. The kneeling posture has attracted the most attention. In Polynesian cultures, kneeling or squatting positions are often connected to chanting, prayer, or ceremonial gatherings. If Tukuturi represents a chanter or ritual figure, the statue may symbolize a shift from ancestor worship toward community-based ceremonies associated with the Birdman tradition. In this tradition, warriors competed to retrieve the first sooty turn egg of the season, becoming symbolic leaders for the year. Art from this period emphasizes human forms and ritual activity rather than the giant ancestral figures of earlier centuries. Tukuturi's posture fits this new cultural direction. Excavations around the statue revealed stone tools, flakes, and soil layers disturbed by ancient workers. These finds indicate that Tukuturi was carved on-site rather than shaped deeper inside the quarry. Its isolated position may have been intentional, marking a sacred location used in later periods. Soil studies show that the slope around the statue experienced erosion and small landslides, which gradually buried parts of the lower legs. This natural covering preserved details on the upper body that might otherwise have eroded. The red stone used for Tukuturi provides another layer of significance. Red pigments and stones were associated with mana, or spiritual power. Red scoria was often used to carve pukau, the large topknots placed on Moai heads. If Tukuturi was carved from a stone linked to spiritual strength, its purpose may have connected to rituals that emphasized renewal or transformation. The stone's hardness also required more effort to carve, suggesting the statue held special meaning. The statue's human-like style challenges earlier assumptions about Easter Island's carving traditions. Most Moai emphasize abstract forms and stylized proportions. Tukuturi's rounded features hint at cultural overlap between older traditions and emerging rituals. The statue may represent an attempt to preserve ancestral symbolism while adapting to new political or spiritual realities. This transition can be seen across other sites on the island where late-period carvings show increasing human detail. Photographs and drawings of Tukuturi dating back to the earliest archaeological surveys show that the statue remained partly exposed for centuries. Its orientation, facing toward the quarry, suggests a symbolic connection with the birthplace of the Moai. It may have served as a guardian figure, watching over the quarry during the island's later period. Alternatively, it may mark the location of a workshop used for carving smaller or more experimental sculptures. Archaeologists continue to debate the statue's date. Radiocarbon samples from surrounding layers provide only indirect clues. Some researchers argue that Tukaturi belongs to the final centuries before European arrival, possibly between 1500 and 1700 CE. Others suggest an earlier timeframe, proposing that the statue may represent an experimental style used alongside traditional moai. The lack of a definitive context makes dating difficult, but stylistic analysis supports a late-period origin. The statue's presence near Rano Raraku adds complexity to interpretations of the quarry. Rano Raraku was not only a production site but also a ritual landscape. Numerous incomplete moai remain half-carved in the rock, suggesting both sudden abandonment and long-term ceremonial use. Tukaturi stands apart from this pattern, showing that the quarry had multiple phases of significance. During the height of moai construction, the quarry symbolized ancestral power. In later centuries, it may have become a place for new ceremonies tied to agricultural cycles, leadership rituals, or the birdman cult. Excavations also revealed traces of stone platforms and post holes near the statue. These may have supported temporary shelters or altars used during rituals. Charcoal fragments indicate that fires were lit nearby, possibly for cooking or ceremonial offerings. The presence of these features suggests that Tukaturi was part of a broader ritual environment, not an isolated sculpture. Tukaturi's unusual posture also contributes to discussions about Rapa Nui's social changes. The island experienced environmental pressure, population shifts, and political restructuring in the centuries before European contact. Communities competed for resources and leadership roles, and ritual practices adapted accordingly. The shift from giant moai to more human-scale, expressive statues reflects this transformation. Tukaturi may embody this cultural realignment, representing a human-centered worldview rather than one focused solely on ancestors. Despite its differences from other moai, Tukaturi shares important features with the island's broader artistic tradition. The elongated head, carved hands resting on the thighs, and carefully shaped torso reflect continuity with earlier designs. The statue blends innovation with tradition, showing that the people who carved it maintained respect for their heritage while exploring new expressions of identity. Today, Tukaturi stands exposed to the elements, with weathering gradually softening its details. Conservation efforts aim to slow erosion and document remaining features. High-resolution scans capture its shape and texture, allowing researchers to analyze carving techniques and compare it with other statues. These studies continue to refine the understanding of how Tukaturi fits into the broader timeline of Rapa Nui's history. The humongous moai Tukaturi remains one of the most distinctive and mysterious statues on Easter Island. Its kneeling posture, rounded features, and unique stone material set it apart from the island's iconic standing moai. Through its unusual form, Tukaturi offers insight into a period of cultural transition, when traditions evolved, rituals changed, and the island's people found new ways to express identity and belief. The statue stands as a reminder that even within a famous tradition, there are moments of creativity, adaptation, and profound meaning. The giant Shakmul stone figure. Across the ancient cities of central Mexico, in temples built by the Toltec and adopted later by the Maya, archaeologists have uncovered a recurring figure unlike any other in Mesoamerican art, the Chacmul. These stone sculptures show a reclining human body, with the head turned to the side, the knees bent, and a shallow bowl or plate resting on the stomach. The posture is unusual, neither seated nor lying down, and the expression is often alert, almost watchful. This figure appears in temples across a wide region, suggesting a shared ritual meaning that spans centuries and cultures. The largest and most famous Chacmul statues come from the Toltec capital of Tula and the Maya city of Chichen Itza. The presence of these sculptures in both sites indicates cultural exchange, political influence, or shared religious traditions between the Toltec and the Maya. Though separated by distance, the two regions show parallel developments in architecture, ritual practice, and iconography during the Classic and post-Classic periods. The Chacmul became a symbol of this connection. Chacmul figures were usually placed at temple entrances or within sacred platforms. Their position suggests a role in offerings or ceremonial transitions. The shallow bowl on the stomach likely held offerings such as incense, flowers, or food. Some researchers propose that the bowl was used to hold the hearts of sacrificial victims. While direct evidence is limited, the figure's placement within ritual spaces and its presence in temples associated with warrior cults makes this interpretation plausible. The origin of the Chacmul remains uncertain. The earliest known examples date to around the 9th century CE and appear in central Mexico. These early figures have muscular forms and stern facial expressions. Later versions in the Maya world show more variation, with different proportions, hairstyles, and decorative details. Despite these differences, the core posture, reclining body, turned head and bowl, remains consistent across regions. The name Chakmul was given by a 19th century explorer and is not an ancient term. The original meaning of the figure in Toltec or Maya culture is unknown. Some scholars connect the figure to Tlaloc, the rain god, because several statues were found in temples associated with rain and agriculture. Others see links to warrior deities, given the presence of Chakmuls in structures decorated with military themes. The figure may represent an intermediary, someone who received offerings on behalf of the gods. The Chakmul found at Tula sits near the top of Pyramid B, the main ceremonial structure of the Toltec capital. From this elevated position, the statue overlooks the central plaza and aligns with the famous Atlantean warrior columns. The connection between the Chakmul and warrior symbolism suggests rituals involving military elites. Offerings placed on the statue may have been part of ceremonies that honored victories, invoked protection, or communicated with deities connected to warfare. At Chichen Itza, the most famous Chakmul stands inside the Temple of the Warriors. This temple features extensive carvings of soldiers, feathered serpents, and ritual processions. The Chakmul sits at the entrance to the main sanctuary, directly in the path of ritual participants. Anyone entering the sacred chamber would have passed by the statue, suggesting that offerings placed on the bowl marked the transition from the outer world to the inner sanctum. The posture of the figure, reclining yet attentive, creates a sense of readiness, as if the statue awaited whatever offering was presented. The craftsmanship of the Chakmul statues varies widely. Some are carved from limestone, others from volcanic stone. The facial features range from stern and angular to calm and rounded. Decorations include belts, headdresses, jewelry, and sandals, all carved with precision. These variations reveal the influence of local traditions while maintaining the unified posture that defined the Chakmul image. Archaeological studies of Chakmul contexts show that many statues were placed intentionally during major construction phases. Excavations reveal that Chakmuls were often installed when temples were rebuilt or expanded, suggesting their role was tied to renewal or dedication ceremonies. Offerings such as shells, ceramics, jade pieces, and obsidian blades were found near several statues. These materials reflect the importance of the figure within ritual life. In the Maya region, Chakmuls sometimes appear near cenotes, natural sinkholes used for ritual offerings. At Chichen Itza, one example was found near the sacred cenote, where objects and human remains show evidence of water-based rituals. This placement strengthens the connection between Chakmuls and offerings meant to communicate with supernatural forces. Some scholars speculate that the reclining posture resembles a figure awaiting purification or transformation during ritual cycles. The artistic style of the Chakmul also provides clues. The turned head and tense limbs suggest a figure in transition, neither fully at rest nor fully alert. This ambiguity may symbolize the boundary between human and divine realms. The Chakmul may have represented a messenger or guardian who mediated between people and gods during ceremonies. The open bowl represented the offering space, physically bridging the two worlds. Environmental and architectural studies show that Chakmuls were usually placed in locations with strong symbolic meaning. They stand at thresholds, atop staircases, or inside inner sanctuaries. Their position suggests that the act of placing an offering on the statue marked passage into a sacred space or moment. The architecture reinforces this role. Doorways, corridors, and elevated platforms direct movement toward the statue, shaping the participants' experience. The spread of the Chakmul across Mesoamerica highlights broader patterns of cultural exchange. During the post-classic period, cities like Chichen Itza and Tula were interconnected through trade, pilgrimage, or diplomatic ties. Shared symbols, such as feathered serpents, warrior imagery, and Chakmuls, reflect this connection. The presence of these statues in distant regions shows how ritual ideas circulated widely, adapting to local traditions while retaining core meanings. Some later versions of the Chakmul appear in Aztec contexts. Although less common, these sculptures show that the image remained influential long after the Toltec and Maya periods. The Aztecs incorporated earlier symbols into their own ritual practices, blending them with their interpretation of the cosmos. The continued use of the Chakmul highlights its lasting importance in Mesoamerican spiritual life. Modern excavations and imaging technology help researchers examine carving marks, tool use, and weathering patterns on Chakmuls. These studies reveal how artisans shaped the figures and how environmental conditions affected their preservation. Some statues show traces of pigment, suggesting they were originally painted in bright colors. Red, blue, and black pigments were common in Mesoamerican ritual art, and painted surfaces would have enhanced the statue's visual impact. The mystery surrounding the Chakmul's original purpose persists. Archaeologists can identify where the statues were placed and what offerings were left, but the symbolic meaning remains partly unclear. The figure may represent a captured warrior, a messenger spirit, a ritual attendant, or a deity in human form. Each interpretation reflects different aspects of Mesoamerican belief systems, but none explains every example. Despite the uncertainty, the Chakmul remains one of the most recognizable figures in Mesoamerican archaeology. Its distinct posture and recurring presence across major ceremonial centers demonstrate its importance in rituals connected to sacrifice, offerings, and communication with the divine. The statue's ability to bridge artistic styles, cultural boundaries, and religious traditions underscores its role as a symbol of continuity across centuries of cultural change. Today, Chakmul statues remain valuable sources of information about ritual life in ancient Mexico. Their placement within temples, association with offerings, and distinct posture continue to guide archaeological interpretation. Through ongoing research, the Chakmul helps illuminate how ancient societies expressed devotion, structured ceremonies, and shaped sacred spaces. The giant Chakmul figure stands as a testament to the creativity and complexity of Mesoamerican cultures. Its enduring mystery invites continued study, connecting the modern world with a long tradition of ritual practice and symbolic expression. The massive stone griffin relief of Persepolis. On the vast terraces of Persepolis, the ceremonial capital of the ancient Achaemenid Empire, stands a collection of stone carvings that describe an empire through images rather than words. Among them, one figure appears again and again, the griffin. With the head of an eagle, the body of a lion, and the stance of a guardian, the griffin reliefs of Persepolis remain some of the most detailed mythological carvings from the ancient Near East. Their presence across staircases, gateways, and column capitals suggests a symbolic role tied to power, protection, and the ideology of empire. Persepolis was constructed beginning around 518 BCE, under the rule of Darius the Great. It served as a ceremonial center rather than a year-round capital, hosting festivities such as Nowruz, the Persian New Year. Delegations from across the empire came to present tribute, forming a display of political unity. The architecture of Persepolis, with its elevated terrace and monumental halls, reflected this imperial vision. Stone reliefs played a major part in communicating messages about order, strength, and the king's authority. The griffin reliefs appear on the grand staircases leading into the Apadana, the vast audience hall used for royal ceremonies. They also serve as protective figures carved on column capitals, standing as half-animal, half-mythic beings. These griffins look forward with intense focus, wings folded behind them, claws gripping the stone. Their expressions combine animal ferocity with deliberate control, suggesting guardianship over the sacred and political rituals carried out within the halls. Symbolically, the griffin represented a blend of power and watchfulness. The lion's strength combined with the eagle's sharp vision created a creature capable of guarding the king and the empire. Reliefs across Persepolis emphasize harmony, stability, and protection, and the griffin fits this theme. While not unique to Persia, the griffin had been a prominent figure across the ancient Near East, especially in Assyrian, Urartian, and Anatolian art. The Achaemenids adopted and refined these motifs into their own imperial language. The details of the Persepolis griffins are notable. Their feathers are carved in orderly rows, their muscles clearly defined. The precision of these features reflects the skill of artists who worked under royal supervision. Traces of pigments found on some reliefs indicate that the griffins were originally painted. Shades of red, blue, and gold may have brought the figures to life during ceremonies, creating an impressive visual effect as sunlight hit the stone. Griffins also appear as architectural elements atop columns in the throne hall. These griffin capitals formed paired figures facing opposite directions, supporting large wooden beams. Their placement above human activity reinforced their role as watchers. From high above, they observed rituals, gatherings, and discussions between leaders. This symbolic oversight reflected the idea that the empire was protected from all sides, both physically and spiritually. While many griffin reliefs have survived, the original meaning behind their selection remains partly unclear. No surviving Achaemenid texts explain their symbolic role. Instead, archaeologists rely on context, comparative art, and cross-cultural influences. The griffin likely represented a guardian spirit, similar to the lamassu in Assyria. It may also have symbolized royal authority, with the lion and eagle each representing aspects of kingship, strength, and divine sight. One of the key griffin reliefs lies on the eastern stairway of the Apadana. This staircase features rows of tribute bearers from across the empire, each group carved with cultural accuracy. Between these scenes, griffins appear as border figures, separating, guarding, and framing the central processions. Their presence reinforces the idea that the tribute ceremony was sacred. The griffins acted as protectors of the imperial ritual, marking the transition between different sections of the political narrative carved into stone. The griffin motif also appears in smaller objects found around Persepolis. Metal vessels, carved seals, and decorative plaques show variations of the griffin. These portable items indicate that the symbol extended beyond architecture into daily objects associated with elite or ritual use. The repeated appearance of the griffin across art forms supports the idea that it was a widely recognized emblem within the empire. When Alexander the Great invaded Persia in 330 BCE, Persepolis was looted and burned, leaving much of the site in ruins. Many reliefs survived, but their original polychrome surfaces were lost. Earthquakes, weathering, and the removal of decorative elements further damaged the complex. Despite this, the griffin figures remain clearly visible. Their stone surfaces, though worn, still show the confident lines of their original carvings. Archaeologists studying Persepolis have documented the griffins using 3D scanning and high-resolution photography. These tools help reconstruct missing sections and identify fine carving details. For example, shallow chisel marks along the wings show how artisans layered texture into the feathers. The depth of carving varies between sections, indicating coordinated work by teams specialized in different tasks. Such observations help reconstruct ancient workshops and the organization of labor. The griffin figures also help explain the relationship between myth and political ideology in ancient Persia. The Achaemenid rulers emphasized unity across diverse regions. Their empire included people from Anatolia, Egypt, Mesopotamia, Central Asia, and the Indus Valley. Art at Persepolis incorporated motifs from these cultures, blending them into a distinctly Persian visual language. The griffin reflects this synthesis, a creature found across multiple cultures, transformed into a guardian of imperial order. Environmental analysis of the site reveals that Persepolis was built on a carefully engineered terrace raised above the surrounding plain. The terrace required massive labor, involving stone cutting, packing, and leveling. The griffin reliefs carved into staircases and halls were part of this broader architectural effort. Their placement at key entry points suggests that the griffins were meant to be seen by visitors entering the ceremonial center. Delegations from across the empire would have passed these figures during their approach to the royal audience. The cultural meaning of the griffin changed over time, especially as Persia adopted new influences. During the Sasanian period, centuries later, similar hybrid creatures appeared in art and architecture, though their designs evolved. This continuity shows the lasting appeal of powerful animal symbols in Persian tradition. While not identical to their Achaemenid predecessors, later griffins highlight the enduring connection between hybrid guardians and royal authority. Today, the griffin reliefs of Persepolis remain some of the most photographed figures at the site. Their distinct form, blending eagle and lion features, captures the imagination of visitors. The clarity of their carvings, preserved across 2.5 millennia, demonstrates the durability of Achaemenid craftsmanship. Conservation efforts focus on stabilizing the stone, preventing erosion, and documenting surface details before further wear occurs. For archaeologists, the griffin statues continue to offer insight into the beliefs and political messages woven into Persepolis's design. Their placement, craftsmanship, and symbolic associations help reconstruct how the Achaemenid Empire communicated power and unity through architecture. These figures acted as silent guardians, watching over ceremonies that defined the empire's identity. The massive stone griffin reliefs of Persepolis stand today as enduring symbols of one of history's greatest empires. Their presence across halls, stairways, and columns reveals how ancient Persia used art to express ideas of protection, authority, and cosmic order. Through careful study, these carvings continue to illuminate the cultural world that shaped one of the most influential civilizations of the ancient Near East, the giant stone ball court ring of Chichen Itza. At the heart of Chichen Itza, one of the most powerful cities of the ancient Maya world, stands a massive structure dedicated to a game that was far more than recreation. The Great Ball Court stretches nearly the length of 2 football fields, flanked by towering stone walls. High on these walls sit 2 enormous stone rings. Each ring is carved from a single block of limestone, placed so high above the court that hitting a rubber ball through one would have required remarkable skill. These rings are among the most iconic features of Maya architecture and provide insight into a sport that blended ceremony, politics, and cosmic symbolism. The ball game, known as pits in the Maya language, was played across Mesoamerica for more than 3,000 years. But at Chichen Itza, the scale of the court and the placement of the stone rings make it unique. The rings stand over 6 meters above the playing surface. Their openings are not wide. Players could not use their hands or feet. Instead, they struck the heavy rubber ball with their hips, elbows, or knees, guiding it with techniques that required both strength and precision. The difficulty of scoring through the elevated rings suggests that the game was less about constant play and more about ritual demonstration. The court itself is one of the largest in Mesoamerica. The long playing alley is framed by 2 walls rising almost 8 meters high. The walls are smooth and steep, acting as reflective surfaces that carried sound across the court. This acoustic design means that the noise of the crowd, chants of priests, or the thud of the ball echoed throughout the space. The court's architecture created a sense of amplification, turning each movement into part of a dramatic performance. Carved panels along the walls depict scenes of the ball game. They show players wearing protective belts, headdresses, and padded garments. On one panel, a player is shown decapitated, with serpents emerging from the neck. This imagery suggests that the ball game could end in ritual sacrifice, though the exact meaning remains debated. Some interpretations propose that the decapitated figure symbolizes the cycle of life and death, while others view it as a literal scene. Regardless of interpretation, the imagery highlights the game's connection to spiritual themes. The stone rings themselves feature detailed carvings. Each has intertwined serpents or stylized animal motifs. These carvings likely held symbolic meaning tied to the Maya worldview. Serpents, especially feathered serpents, were associated with creation, rebirth, and cosmic power. Placing such symbols on the rings suggests that scoring a point was not simply athletic, it was an act tied to celestial cycles or divine favor. Researchers studying the ball court note that the size and alignment may reflect astronomical knowledge. The court's orientation lines up closely with solar events. On certain days, shadows fall in specific patterns across the court, creating visual effects that may have been part of ceremonial events. The Maya often connected sports, rituals, and cosmology, viewing the ball game as a reflection of celestial battles described in their mythology. The difficulty of scoring through the ring raises questions about how the game was played. It is possible that passing the ball through the ring ended the match instantly and carried great symbolic weight. Some researchers believe that only certain moments or certain players were meant to attempt this feat. Another theory suggests that the game included multiple symbolic phases, with rituals performed before or after the main play. The ball itself was made from hardened rubber, likely weighing several kilograms. Such a ball could cause serious injury if struck incorrectly. Protective clothing found in depictions and archaeological examples shows that players wore thick belts and pads. The players may have been trained athletes or members of elite warrior groups. Their participation in the game would have carried status, reinforcing political and religious authority. The murals and carvings surrounding the Great Ball Court show that the game played a major role in public ceremonies. These carvings depict groups of spectators, judges, and musicians. Ritual objects appear alongside players, emphasizing the ceremonial nature of the event. The entire court functioned as a stage where myth, sport, and politics intersected. The Great Ball Court at Chichen Itza is positioned between key structures, the Temple of the Jaguars and the Temple of the Bearded Man. These buildings contain murals showing scenes of warfare, diplomacy, and ritual processions. The connection between the court and these temples suggests that the ball game was part of a larger ceremonial program. Victories may have symbolized divine favor, political power, or cosmic harmony. Archaeological evidence also indicates that the ball game served as a form of social communication. Cities across Mesoamerica built ball courts to express identity, authority, and cultural ties. At Chichen Itza, the presence of multiple smaller ball courts suggests that different groups or neighborhoods played their own versions of the game. But the Great Ball Court, due to its scale and design, was reserved for major events. The rings themselves show signs of weathering, but many of their carvings remain clear. Close examination reveals chisel marks that show how artisans shaped the stone. The precision required to carve and install the rings at such height demonstrates advanced engineering skills. The placement required careful measurement to ensure symmetry and proper balance atop the walls. The Great Ball Court also includes markers on the ground and along the walls that may have guided movement or defined zones of play. These carved markers show stylized skulls, birds, and geometric shapes. Their meaning remains debated, but they likely indicated boundaries or ritual stages of the game. Environmental studies around Chichen Itza show that the city had access to cenotes, natural sinkholes serving as sources of water. These features were vital for survival and held deep spiritual meaning. Some researchers suggest that the ball game symbolized the journey between the earthly world and the underworld, echoing myths in which heroes face trials to restore cosmic balance. The elevated rings may have represented celestial gates or symbolic thresholds between realms. As the Maya city grew in power between 800 and 1000 CE, the ball court became a focal point of public life. Leaders likely used the game to reinforce alliances, settle disputes, or demonstrate authority. Ceremonies held within the court may have included offerings, speeches, or processions that integrated the ball game with political rituals. Today, the Great Ball Court and its massive stone rings remain among the most recognized features of Chichen Itza. Visitors stand beneath the towering walls and imagine how players once moved across the stone floor. The rings, still perched high above, show the challenge and intensity of the ancient sport. Their presence reflects both athletic achievement and deep spiritual symbolism. The giant stone ball court ring of Chichen Itza serves as a window into Maya beliefs, engineering, and public life. Its scale and design reflect a society that valued ceremony, community, and cosmic order. Through its preserved structures and reliefs, the ball court continues to reveal how the Maya blended sport, myth, and political ritual into one of the most enduring traditions of the ancient world. The giant Buddha hand of Leshan. On the mist-covered cliffs of Sichuan, carved directly into the red sandstone face overlooking the meeting point of three rivers, sits one of the largest stone statues in the world, the Leshan giant Buddha. While the full statue rises more than 70 meters high, it is often the hand that captures the most attention. Resting gently upon the statue's knee, the hand measures several meters across. Each finger is nearly large enough for a person to lie down, and the proportions are so detailed that the hand appears natural despite its enormous scale. This single carved hand reveals the engineering, devotion, and vision of the craftsmen who shaped the landscape over 1,000 years ago. Construction of the Leshan giant Buddha began during the Tang dynasty in the early 8th century CE. The region's rivers, the Min, Qingyi, and Dedu, were known for strong currents that threatened boats and cargo traveling into Sichuan. According to historical records, a monk named Hai Tong believed that carving a giant statue of Maitreya, the Buddha of the future, would calm the waters through divine protection. He spent years collecting donations, sometimes protecting the funds so fiercely that he offered to remove his own eyes rather than give up the project. His determination set the construction in motion. The Buddha sits against the cliff face, carved from the sandstone in stages. Artisans removed thousands of cubic meters of rock, shaping the seated figure directly from the ridge. The statue's shoulders stretch almost 30 meters across, and the head alone stands more than 14 meters tall. Within this immense figure, the hands are carved with remarkable attention to proportion. Each crease, curve, and joint is shaped to match human anatomy, scaled upward with precision. The right hand rests on the knee, palm down, symbolizing calm and groundedness. In Buddhist iconography, this posture reflects the Buddha's connection to the earth and his call to witness the truth of his enlightenment. The hand acts as a stabilizing presence, linking the massive statue with the natural rock beneath it. Visitors standing beside the fingers experience the extraordinary scale firsthand, seeing how the artisans balanced size with recognizability. Carving the hand required both technical and artistic skill. The sandstone of the cliff is relatively soft, making it easier to shape but vulnerable to erosion. To preserve the form, ancient engineers built drainage systems inside the statue. Channels carved into the head, shoulders, and arms direct rainwater away from the surface. This hidden engineering allowed delicate details, such as the hand's smooth surface and finger contours, to survive for more than a millennium. The hand also provides clues about the tools and techniques used. Chisel marks on the underside of the fingers, visible when examined closely, show that workers shaped the stone in layers, removing rough sections first and refining them with smaller tools. The scale of the work suggests teams of laborers, likely supervised by master artisans responsible for maintaining proportion and alignment across the statue's vast surface. The sandstone cliff itself served as both the material and the foundation. Carving directly into the rock allowed the statue to merge with the landscape, making the natural environment part of the sculpture. The placement overlooking the river junction created a visual connection between spiritual protection and the physical world. The hand, resting calmly on the knee above the powerful waters below, symbolized reassurance for travelers and residents of the region. During the centuries following its completion, the Leshan giant Buddha endured both natural weathering and human activity. Floods, earthquakes, and vegetation growth affected the statue's surface. The hand, exposed to rain and wind, developed cracks and discoloration. Restoration teams during later dynasties repaired damaged sections using stone patches, mortar mixtures, and wooden scaffolding. These repeated maintenance efforts show the continued reverence for the statue across generations. The hand's size also played a role in ritual and cultural practices. Local traditions describe how villagers once placed offerings near the feet and hands of the statue to seek protection or good fortune. Some carved inscriptions nearby record the names of donors or officials who sponsored restoration work. These inscriptions help trace the long history of care and devotion surrounding the Buddha. Modern conservation efforts use scanning technology, moisture monitoring, and careful stone stabilization to preserve the hand and surrounding features. Specialists study the rate of erosion, examining how water, temperature changes, and microorganisms affect the sandstone. Restorers apply protective coatings only where necessary, aiming to maintain both the statue's integrity and its historical authenticity. The hand also reflects changes in artistic style during the Tang dynasty. Sculptors of the period often emphasized gentle curves, lifelike expressions, and proportional harmony. The hand's shape, broad yet soft, detailed yet simple, matches this aesthetic. The smooth planes of the fingers contrast with the more textured surfaces of the surrounding cliff, emphasizing the deliberate craftsmanship of the statue. The environment around the Buddha enhances the impact of the hand's scale. Cliffside stairs descend beside the statue, allowing visitors to view it from multiple angles. From above, the hand appears almost abstract, its full scale difficult to grasp until compared with the landscape. From below, the hand becomes a towering architectural feature, framed by the cliff walls and rivers. This shifting perspective underscores how the statue was designed to be experienced from various distances. Archaeological studies of the statue's interior reveal additional engineering. Within the hand and arm regions, stone cores remain intact, showing how the artisans carved around natural faults in the rock. Some sections were reinforced with wooden beams during construction, though these have long since deteriorated. Moisture channels run beneath the hand's surface, directing water away from cracks that might otherwise widen. This internal system demonstrates an understanding of long-term preservation rarely seen in open-air stone monuments of the period. In the broader context of Buddhist art, the Leshan giant Buddha represents both devotion and engineering mastery. The posture, expression, and gestures are characteristic of Maitreya imagery found across Asia. But the scale and setting make the statue unique. The hand, in particular, embodies the connection between the divine and the human. It is both approachable and monumental, shaped in a way that suggests serenity despite its enormous size. The surrounding region also influenced the statue's meaning. The convergence of rivers symbolized transition, movement, and the flow of life. By placing the Buddha above these waters, the creators emphasized the role of guidance and protection. Local stories recount how, after the statue's completion, the river currents became calmer. While geological factors likely played a role, the belief reinforced the statue's spiritual significance. Today, the giant Buddha hand of Leshan remains a powerful symbol of ancient craftsmanship and cultural continuity. Visitors standing beside the fingers experience the scale of a monument carved not simply as art, but as an expression of faith. The hand's preserved details, its curved nails, gentle lines, and proportional balance testify to the skill of the artisans who carved it more than 1,000 years ago. Through its sheer size and serene posture, the hand invites reflection on the power of human belief and the ability of ancient societies to create structures that endure. The giant Buddha of Leshan remains one of the world's great stone monuments, and its hand, simple in form, yet monumental in presence, stands as a reminder of the devotion, skill, and vision that shaped the ancient world. The 15-ton Khmer baluster elephant gate of Angkor Thom. In the heart of Cambodia's ancient capital, Angkor Thom stands one of the most recognizable gateways of the Khmer Empire, the Elephant Gate. Known for its massive baluster carvings of elephants emerging from stone walls, this structure carries both architectural sophistication and symbolic meaning. Built in the late 12th century during the reign of King Jayavarman VII, the Elephant Gate forms part of the fortified walls surrounding the royal city. At first glance, it appears decorative, but the size and craftsmanship of the stone elephants reveal engineering that required enormous labor and careful planning. Angkor Thom itself was a masterwork of urban design. Spanning more than 9 square kilometers, it was the largest city of the Khmer Empire and one of the largest cities anywhere on Earth at the time. The city was enclosed by long laterite walls, each section fortified with gates guarded by towers, balustrades, statues, and symbolic figures. The Elephant Gate sits along the Terrace of the Elephants, a raised platform overlooking the royal parade grounds. From this point, kings watched military ceremonies, public celebrations, and diplomatic receptions. The Elephant Gate is named for the stone carvings of elephants that appear as if stepping out of the wall. Each elephant is carved at a monumental scale, their trunks curved down in extended forms, grasping lotus flowers, or supporting parts of the terrace. The balusters weigh many tons each, and their placement required advanced knowledge of stone engineering. The elephants are shown in profile, but carved deeply enough to create a near three-dimensional effect. Muscles, tusks, ears, and decorative harnesses are carved with precision, capturing both strength and grace. Elephants held deep symbolic meaning in Khmer culture. They represented power, royal authority, and the ability to move between the physical and spiritual worlds. In battle, elephants carried warriors and banners. In ceremonies, they symbolized stability and control. Their appearance on the terrace, therefore, connected the king directly with these attributes. The Elephant Gate communicated this message to those entering the royal precinct. The balusters are carved from sandstone, the same material used for most Khmer temples. Blocks were transported from quarries several kilometers away, shaped roughly at the quarry, and then refined on site. The weight of each elephant carving, sometimes more than 15 tons, required wooden scaffolding, levers, ramps, and coordinated labor. Archaeological studies of nearby Angkor sites show evidence of large construction teams organized into specialized groups, including masons, sculptors, transporters, and supervisors. The terrace stretches more than 300 meters in length. Its walls contain repeating patterns of elephants and guardians. At the center of the terrace stands the Elephant Gate, where visitors passed into the inner royal compound. Historical inscriptions describe Angkor Thom as a place where the king embodied both political and spiritual leadership. The arrangement of the gate and terrace reflects this dual function. The elephants formed guardians at the threshold between the outer city and the royal center. Excavations around the Elephant Gate uncovered clues about ceremonies held in this space. Foundations of wooden structures, fragments of bronze ornaments, and pottery indicate gatherings of officials, performers, and soldiers. The wide terrace above the elephants provided a platform for royal appearances. From here, the king faced the parade ground where processions took place. These events showcased the strength of the empire, with dancers, soldiers, elephants, and dignitaries filling the area below. The carvings along the gate also include scenes of Garuda, lions, Naga serpents, and mythological beings. This combination of animals created a layered symbolic environment. Garuda represented divine protection, while lions symbolized courage. The Naga serpent connected earth and water. Together, these motifs reinforced the idea that the king ruled with divine sanction. The elephants, positioned prominently, acted as anchors within this symbolic landscape. The Elephant Gate also reflects the Khmer Empire's connection to hydraulic engineering. Angkor Thom was built near vast reservoirs called barais, which stored water for rice fields and urban use. The Terrace of the Elephants sits near the royal square, where water festivals and ceremonies took place. The presence of elephants, animals often associated with rain and water in Southeast Asian tradition, fit the broader theme of prosperity and control over natural forces. Archaeologists studying wear patterns on the stone discovered areas smoothed by centuries of human contact. The trunks and decorative elements show signs of visitors touching the stone, perhaps during rituals or ceremonies. Some sections of the terrace contain shallow depressions where offerings may have been placed. These small details help reconstruct how people interacted with the gate in daily and ceremonial life. Environmental studies reveal that the region around Angkor Thom experienced cycles of monsoon flooding and drought. Despite this, the Elephant Gate remains remarkably preserved. The sandstone has weathered, but many details survive. Restoration projects involve reinforcing weakened sections, cleaning biological growth, and stabilizing underlying soil. Researchers carefully document each stone to preserve the original arrangement. The carvings also reveal the artistic style of the late Angkor period. While earlier temple reliefs focused on Hindu epics and mythological scenes, Jayavarman VII's constructions emphasized Buddhist themes alongside traditional motifs. The elephants, though secular in appearance, reflect the broader shift toward imagery associated with compassion, strength, and cosmic harmony. Their placement in the royal setting demonstrates the blending of religion and statecraft. Surrounding the Elephant Gate, the landscape of Angkor Thom includes temples such as the Bayon, with its famous towers carved with serene faces. Roads radiate outward from the city center, crossing bridges lined with stone figures. The Elephant Gate fits into this network as both an architectural element and a symbolic landmark. Its position on the terrace overlooks the field where royal elephants once paraded, giving the carvings a direct connection to the living animals that participated in ceremonies. Recent archaeological work uses digital mapping and 3D modeling to document the gate's details. Scans reveal subtle carving marks, tool patterns, and damaged areas. These digital models help researchers understand how artisans shaped the stone and how weathering affects the sculptures. They also provide a means of visualizing how the gate may have looked when newly completed. Bright, clean, and possibly painted. The Elephant Gate stood during one of Angkor's most prosperous periods, but by the 15th century, political shifts, climate stresses, and external pressures contributed to the city's decline. Many structures fell into disrepair as vegetation grew around them. The Elephant Gate, protected by its sandstone strength and the terrace's elevation, remained more intact than many surrounding structures. When rediscovered by explorers in the 19th century, the gate's elephants appeared heavily weathered but still recognizable. Today, the Elephant Gate continues to attract thousands of visitors who walk along the terrace, above, or stand below the carvings to admire the scale. The combination of artistic detail and engineering achievement shows the capabilities of Khmer builders. The gate's elephants remain strong and stable, even after centuries of exposure to monsoon rains and tropical heat. Through careful preservation, the gate stands not only as a historical structure, but also as a reminder of the symbolic world of the Khmer Empire. The elephants carved from massive blocks represent a culture that blended strength, spirituality, engineering, and ceremony into its architecture. Their presence on the terrace connects the ancient city's daily life, royal displays, and spiritual practices into one unified landscape. The 15-ton Khmer baluster elephants of Angkor Thom continue to reveal the ingenuity of ancient Southeast Asia. Their scale, detail, and placement show how architecture and symbolism shaped the royal capital. Standing beneath them today, one experiences both the power of the empire and the skill of the artisans who carved these monumental forms into the stone. The giant eagle warrior statue of Teotihuacan. In the ancient city of Teotihuacan, where long avenues and stepped pyramids rise from the high Mexican plateau, archaeologists have uncovered traces of a military society that shaped the city's power. Among its most striking symbols is the figure known as the Eagle Warrior. Represented in murals, carvings, and rare stone sculptures, the Eagle Warrior stands as one of the clearest images of Teotihuacan's elite fighting class. Though only a few large statues survive, the most famous examples show a warrior dressed in a full eagle costume, with the head of the bird forming a helmet, and the wings spread across the warrior's arms. These statues provide a direct glimpse into Teotihuacan's social organization, ritual practices, and symbolic worldview. Teotihuacan reached its height between 200 and 600 CE, becoming one of the largest cities in the ancient world. Its avenues stretched for kilometers. Apartment compounds housed thousands of residents. Temples to deities like the feathered serpent and the storm god dominated the skyline. Within this environment, the Eagle Warriors represented an elite military unit responsible for ritual duties, defense, and political influence. While many warrior societies existed across ancient Mesoamerica, Teotihuacan's Eagle Warriors appear to have been central to state ceremonies and military identity. The giant Eagle Warrior statue most often referenced comes from the Plaza of the Columns complex, a ceremonial area near the center of the city. Carved from volcanic stone, the figure stands with a broad stance, wearing a costume that includes a large eagle head helmet. The beak curves outward above the face opening. The body is covered in feathers carved in layered rows, indicating a full-body suit. The arms hold circular shields, and the figure's posture suggests readiness for ritual or combat. Even though weathering has softened some details, the craftsmanship and scale remain clear. The eagle symbolism held deep meaning in Teotihuacan and broader Mesoamerican culture. Eagles were associated with the sun, sky, and military strength. Their sharp vision and hunting ability made them natural emblems of warrior classes. In Teotihuacan, murals depict eagle warriors carrying obsidian-tipped spears or shields decorated with solar symbols. These images highlight their connection not only to warfare, but also to cosmic order. The warrior's role may have included participation in ceremonies tied to agricultural cycles, warfare rituals, or leadership transitions. Excavations around the statue revealed fragments of other ceremonial objects, incense burners, figurines, and stone altars. These finds suggest that eagle warriors played a role in ritual activities performed in plazas and temple courtyards. Offerings found near the statue include obsidian blades, shells from distant coasts, and animal bones. These materials reflect Teotihuacan's far-reaching trade connections and the role of warriors in facilitating both conflict and long-distance exchange. The statue's size indicates that it was not a simple decoration. Standing nearly human height and carved from heavy stone, it required significant labor to create and position. Carving volcanic stone demanded specialized tools and skill. The smooth surfaces, sharp feather lines, and proportionate limbs suggest a workshop familiar with producing ceremonial sculptures. Teams of artisans likely worked under official supervision, shaping the statue as part of a larger building project. Nearby murals in the city's apartment compounds reinforce the importance of eagle warriors. The famous murals in the Tetela and Atelco compounds show warriors wearing eagle and jaguar suits, arranged in processions. They carry standards, shields, and obsidian weapons. Painted symbols around them include water streams, plants, and celestial icons. These scenes indicate that warriors played roles in both military and agricultural ceremonies, blending political authority with cosmic symbolism. Archaeologists interpret the eagle warrior costume as a sign of rank. Only selected individuals, likely trained from youth or chosen from elite families, would have worn such elaborate outfits. The costumes themselves were made from textiles, feathers, leather, and wooden frames. The stone statue depicts a stylized version of the costume, but enough detail survives to understand how the garment worked. The eagle head helmet in particular resembles ceremonial helmets known from later Mesoamerican societies that traced cultural roots to Teotihuacan. The statue's location in the Plaza of the Columns complex links it to state-level ceremonies. This area, with its large open space, pillars, and raised platforms, functioned as a central stage for political and religious events. The eagle warrior statue likely stood as a guardian figure or ceremonial symbol within this environment. Its presence communicated the strength and discipline of Teotihuacan's armed forces. The plaza's layout, with platforms aligned to cardinal directions, reflects the city's concern with cosmic alignment. The eagle warrior, positioned within this ordered space, became part of a larger system of symbolism, rooted in astronomy and mythology. The eagle's link to the sun may have represented victory, renewal, or protection. Its association with warriors underscores how Teotihuacan merged cosmology with political identity. Environmental studies around Teotihuacan reveal that the region supported large agricultural settlements. The Eagle warriors may have played roles in protecting fields, securing trade routes, and maintaining order among the city's diverse population. The city was home to people from across Mesoamerica, including Zapotec, Maya, Gulf Coast, and Otomi communities. Warrior societies helped unify these groups under a centralized government. When Teotihuacan declined around 555 to 600 CE, many of its buildings were burned and abandoned. Statues like the Eagle warrior survived only because they were buried or left in protected areas. Excavations in the 20th and 21st centuries uncovered these artifacts, allowing archaeologists to reconstruct the city's social structure. The Eagle warrior statue became a symbol of Teotihuacan's military organization and its connection to later Mesoamerican cultures. Modern research uses 3D scanning and pigment analysis to identify traces of paint on the statue's surface. Some areas show faint remains of red, black, and yellow pigments. These details suggest that the statue was originally painted to resemble real feathers and ceremonial attire. If so, the figure would have appeared far more lifelike in its original state, enhancing its presence during ceremonies. Studies of excavated artifacts also reveal connections between Eagle warriors and human sacrifice. Some burials near temples contain offerings associated with warrior societies. These burials include animal remains, especially eagles and jaguars, along with obsidian weapons. The combination suggests that warrior groups played a role in rituals involving symbolic offerings related to power and cosmic balance. While direct evidence of sacrifice linked specifically to the statue is limited, the broader pattern indicates that warrior iconography carried significant ritual weight. Visitors to Teotihuacan today can see reproductions of Eagle warriors in museums and reconstructed murals. The original sculptures remain in protected collections or archaeological reserves. Their details continue to provide insight into Teotihuacan's artistic style, geometric yet expressive, abstract yet grounded in natural forms. The giant Eagle warrior statue represents not only a military figure but also a cultural ideal. It embodies courage, vision, discipline, and cosmic alignment. Through this statue, the ancient city expressed its identity as a major power shaped by warfare, trade, and ritual. The combination of animal symbolism with human form reflects a worldview where humans and natural forces work together to maintain balance. Today, the Eagle warrior stands as one of Teotihuacan's most recognizable symbols. Its carved feathers, strong posture, and watchful presence continue to tell the story of a society that blended martial skill with cosmic meaning. Through ongoing research, the statue remains a key to understanding how Teotihuacan built and preserved its influence across Mesoamerica. The huge Cycladic marble idol. Across the scattered islands of the Cyclades in the Aegean Sea, archaeologists have found a unique artistic tradition that flourished more than 4,500 years ago. Among these discoveries, a few large marble idols stand out for their size, simplicity, and the quiet power they still carry. These figurines, sometimes nearly life-sized, are carved from solid blocks of marble found on islands like Naxos and Keros. The Cycladic idol is known for its folded arm posture, smooth surfaces, and abstract features. While many examples are small, the rare huge idols reveal the full ambition of this early Bronze Age culture. The figurines follow a standard pattern, the arms folded across the torso, the head tilted slightly back, and the legs carefully outlined. The face is often blank, except for a prominent nose. The simplicity is deliberate. Cycladic artists focused on overall form rather than intricate detail. Their style has influenced modern art, but in their own time, these figures served spiritual or ceremonial purposes. The largest marble idols discovered in the Cyclades reach up to 1.5 meters in height. Their size alone suggests they were not everyday objects. Quarrying marble in the Bronze Age required effort and specialized knowledge. The stone had to be extracted, shaped roughly at the quarry, transported across rugged island terrain, and then refined in workshops. For a figurine this large, every step required coordination and planning. These idols were usually carved using stone chisels, abrasives, and polishing tools. Despite the hardness of marble, the surfaces are smooth and balanced. Each curve flows into the next, with proportions that are carefully maintained. The thin neck, wide shoulders, and narrow legs appear fragile, yet the statues stand firm. The smooth planes catch light in a way that makes the figurines appear more alive than their minimal features suggest. The posture of folded arms is consistent across most Cycladic idols, large and small. Some researchers interpret this gesture as a sign of ritual respect or mourning. Others propose that the figures represented deities, ancestors, or symbolic protectors. Because most large idols were found broken, buried, or placed in ritual contexts, their original purpose remains partly unclear. The lack of written records from the Cycladic culture leaves interpretation to archaeological context and comparison. Excavations on the island of Keros revealed areas filled with intentionally broken figurines and marble fragments. Some of the fragments belonged to large idols, suggesting that breaking and depositing them was part of ceremonial practice. Whether this was symbolic offering, renewal ritual, or social tradition is still debated. The presence of high-quality marble pieces mixed with everyday objects shows that the practice was widespread and meaningful. The large idols were not simply enlarged versions of smaller ones. Their scale allowed artisans to explore proportion and geometry more fully. Some large figurines show subtle variation in shoulder width, leg length, or head tilt. These differences suggest creative decisions rather than rigid templates. Workshops across different islands developed their own styles, resulting in recognizable regional variations. For example, idols from Naxos have tall proportions, while those from Amorgos feature more rounded shapes. The blank face is one of the most striking features. While some figurines were once painted with pigments marking eyes, hair, or jewelry, very little survives today. Microscopic analysis of marble surfaces revealed traces of red and blue paint in certain areas, indicating that the idols were originally more detailed. The paint would have added a layer of expression now lost to time. Today, the blank face gives the idols an abstract quality often compared to modern sculpture. The absence of clear facial detail may reflect symbolic meaning rather than lack of skill. Cycladic artists were capable of carving detailed objects when needed. The choice to leave the face uncarved suggests that identity was meant to be generalized or symbolic. The figurine could represent an ideal rather than a specific person. This style distinguishes Cycladic culture from the later Greek tradition of realistic portraiture. Large Cycladic idols also provide insight into social organization. Creating such statues required skilled artisans and access to valuable materials. Marble was abundant in some islands but still required quarrying expertise. Transporting a large marble block from quarry to workshop, then to final placement implies coordinated labor. These idols may have been commissioned by communities or leaders for ritual or burial use. Some of the largest idols were found in graves. Their presence suggests that they served as status symbols or spiritual companions for the deceased. The effort required to include such a large, heavy statue in a burial indicates that the individual held significant importance. In these contexts, the figurines may have symbolized protection, identity, or connection to the divine. Other large idols were found in settlement contexts. Fragments found near domestic areas show that figurines existed in everyday life as well, though their exact function remains unclear. They may have been used in household rituals or displayed during seasonal ceremonies. The broken nature of many figurines suggests that they were used actively rather than passively stored. The technical skill involved in shaping the marble can be observed in the smooth transitions between surfaces. The legs are separated by shallow incisions, and the arms are defined by subtle lines. Achieving these shapes with early Bronze Age tools required patience and precision. Artisans used abrasion stones and sand to polish surfaces, resulting in the matte finish characteristic of Cycladic sculpture. Environmental studies reveal that the islands experienced trade networks during the Bronze Age. Obsidian from Melos, copper from mainland Greece, and pottery from Crete appear in Cycladic settlements. The movement of goods suggests that ideas, styles, and techniques also traveled, yet the Cycladic idol tradition remains distinct. While influenced by surrounding cultures, its simplicity and clarity of form seem to reflect a local worldview that valued purity of shape and symbolic minimalism. The rarity of large idols gives them particular importance. Only a few complete examples have been recovered, and most are fragmentary. Reconstruction requires careful analysis, matching breaks in surfaces to piece together original forms. Museums often display reconstructed idols alongside fragments that highlight their scale and craftsmanship. Modern scientific techniques, such as 3D scanning and isotopic marble analysis, help determine quarry origins and carving sequences. These methods reveal that some large idols were made from marble sourced far from their final resting place. Transporting such heavy materials across water required boats and coordination, showing the mobility and organization of Cycladic communities. The modern appeal of Cycladic idols, especially the large ones, lies in their simplicity and balance. Their geometric clarity influenced 20th century artists, but their deeper meaning is rooted in a Bronze Age world where ritual, community, and identity were expressed through calm, minimal forms. The large idols evoke presence without exaggeration, creating a connection that seems timeless. Today, these statues remain among the most iconic artifacts of early Aegean culture. Their scale, craftsmanship, and abstract beauty continue to inspire study and reflection. Through them, archaeologists gain insight into spiritual beliefs, artistic traditions, and social practices of a society that left no written records but expressed itself powerfully through stone. The huge Cycladic marble idol stands as a reminder that even in the early Bronze Age, communities shaped art with intention, precision, and meaning. Its simplicity hides the complexity of the world that created it, and its form continues to speak across thousands of years. The basalt monument of Göbekli Tepe, Pillar 43, on a hill in southeastern Turkey, beneath layers of soil that protected it for more than 10,000 years, lies Göbekli Tepe, one of the world's oldest known monumental sites, built long before pottery, metal tools, or settled villages. The circular enclosures contain large T-shaped pillars carved from limestone. Among these pillars, one stands out for its complexity and the questions it raises. Pillar 43, often called the vulture stone, covered in relief carvings of animals, symbols, and abstract forms, this pillar has become central to discussions about ritual, belief, and the capabilities of ancient hunter-gatherers. Pillar 43 stands within enclosure D, one of the earliest and most elaborate parts of Göbekli Tepe. The pillar is carved from a single block of stone and shaped into the distinct T-form characteristic of the site. Its surface carries carved reliefs arranged in horizontal bands. These carvings represent vultures, scorpions, birds, and geometric shapes. The combination of images and their careful arrangement suggests that the pillar served a symbolic or ceremonial purpose, though its exact meaning remains uncertain. The most recognizable element is the large vulture carved on the upper section. The bird stands with wings outstretched, holding what appears to be a circular object. Below the vulture sits a headless human figure. These carvings have led some researchers to link the pillar to ritual practices involving death or the transition of the soul. In traditional cultures of the region, vultures played roles in excarnation rituals, where bodies were left exposed to the elements. Whether Pillar 43 reflects such practices remains debated, but the presence of vultures and human imagery hints at symbolic ideas tied to death and afterlife. Other carvings on the pillar show scorpions, snakes, and smaller birds. Each animal is carved with clear outlines, representing recognizable species native to the region. These animals appear frequently across Göbekli Tepe's pillars, suggesting a shared symbolic system. Some animals may represent clans, seasons, or mythological beings. The presence of dangerous creatures like scorpions could symbolize protection, transformation, or transition. Their arrangement on the pillar shows intentional placement rather than random decoration. The lower section of the pillar features geometric shapes, including a belt-like band and possible representations of clothing. This detail aligns with other pillars in enclosure D, where carved belts, animal skin patterns, and sometimes arms appear. The T-shape of the pillars may represent stylized human figures. If so, Pillar 43 could depict a person or a spirit wearing symbolic carvings. The pillar becomes both a representation and a canvas for ritual imagery. Göbekli Tepe dates to around 9600–8200 BCE, a time when communities were transitioning from mobile hunter-gatherer groups to more settled lifestyles. The effort required to build the site is substantial. Each pillar, weighing several tons, was quarried, shaped, transported, and erected using tools made only from stone and bone. The level of coordination suggests organized groups with shared beliefs. Pillar 43, with its detailed reliefs, shows that these early communities invested considerable time in symbolic expression. Archaeologists uncovered Pillar 43 in the 1990s, and since then it has become one of the most photographed artifacts at the site. High-resolution scans reveal chisel marks and layered carving techniques. The artists used pointed tools to outline the shapes and broader instruments to smooth surfaces. The carvings vary in depth, with some reliefs raised several centimeters from the stone. Despite age and weathering, many details remain clear, allowing researchers to reconstruct the original design. Interpretations of the pillar vary. Some scholars suggest that the vulture carrying a circular object represents the sun or a spiritual symbol. The headless human figure may symbolize death or transformation. Others propose astronomical meanings. Certain carvings resemble constellations visible in the night sky during the site's occupation. While this interpretation is debated, it highlights the potential connection between celestial observation and ritual architecture. Another possibility is that the pillar records mythic stories. In many early cultures, narratives involving animals, cosmic cycles, and human experiences were transmitted through symbolic imagery. Pillar 43 may capture elements of a story familiar to the people of Göbekli Tepe. Without written records, the meaning remains speculative, but the clarity of the images suggests intentional communication. The organization of the enclosure provides additional context. Pillar 43 stands among other tall pillars arranged in a circle. Two central pillars dominate the enclosure, facing each other. The surrounding pillars, including Pillar 43, form the boundary of the ceremonial space. The carvings on each pillar differ, but collectively they create a symbolic environment. Rituals held in this space may have involved storytelling, dance, offerings, or communal gatherings. The carved animals may have represented spiritual helpers, symbolic guardians, or elements of ritual performance. Environmental studies of the region show that Göbekli Tepe was built during a period of climate change. The end of the last ice age brought warmer temperatures and shifting ecosystems. Large herds of gazelle, wild cattle, and other animals migrated through the region. The abundance of game supported large gatherings, allowing communities to build monumental architecture. Pillar 43's animal imagery may reflect the importance of wildlife in spiritual and economic life. The site was intentionally buried around 8200 BCE. Layers of soil and stone were used to fill the enclosures, covering the pillars completely. The reason for this deliberate burial remains unclear. It may reflect ritual closure, changing traditions, or environmental pressure. The burial preserved the carvings, including Pillar 43, protecting them from erosion for millennia. When archaeologists uncovered the pillar, they found it in remarkably good condition. The pillar's symbolism also highlights the role of art in early complex societies. Instead of representing daily life, the carvings focus on animals and abstract forms. This emphasis suggests a symbolic world where meaning was conveyed through shared imagery. The consistent appearance of certain animals across pillars indicates a coherent system of belief. Pillar 43, with its detailed reliefs, represents one of the richest examples of this early symbolic language. Today, Göbekli Tepe is a protected archaeological site. Large shelters cover the enclosures to prevent weather damage. Conservation teams monitor the pillars for cracking, erosion, and biological growth. Detailed scanning helps preserve the carvings digitally, allowing researchers to study them without causing harm to the stone. Pillar 43 remains a focal point for visitors and scholars alike. While the meaning of the vulture stone remains partly elusive, its significance is clear. It shows that complex symbolism, monumental construction, and organized ritual existed thousands of years earlier than once believed. The people who carved Pillar 43 lived long before writing, pottery, or urban settlement. Yet their art demonstrates sophisticated thought and shared belief systems. The basalt monument of Göbekli Tepe's Pillar 43 stands as one of the earliest and most detailed carved stones ever created. Its vultures, scorpions, and geometric forms reflect a symbolic world that predates the rise of agriculture and cities. Through this pillar, archaeologists gain insight into the minds of people who lived at the threshold of human cultural development, communities capable of building monumental architecture and expressing their beliefs through carefully carved stone. The colossal Lion Man of Hohenstein. Deep in the lone valley of southwestern Germany, inside a cave system known as Hohenstein-Stadel, archaeologists uncovered one of the oldest symbolic sculptures ever created. Today it is known as the Lion Man, a hybrid creature combining the body of a human with the head of a cave lion. The figure was carved from mammoth ivory more than 35,000 years ago, making it older than agriculture, older than the first villages, and far older than any writing system. Even though the sculpture stands just over 30 centimeters tall, researchers often call it colossal in significance, because it represents a moment when early humans created something beyond the world they saw, an idea, a belief, or a symbol. The Lion Man was discovered in fragments in 1939. More than 300 pieces of mammoth ivory lay buried in cave sediment. Due to the outbreak of war, the fragments weren't properly studied for decades. When researchers finally began reconstructing the sculpture in the 1960s, and again in the 1990s and 2010s, the full shape of the figure became clear: an upright human body, with a muscular torso, elongated arms, and a head shaped like that of a cave lion. The posture is deliberate. The figure stands tall, with hands resting at the sides and legs slightly apart, as if poised in a moment of ritual significance. The cave in which the statue was found was not used for everyday living. Evidence suggests it was a place of ritual activity, with concentrations of tools and bones arranged in unusual ways. The Lion Man may have been part of ceremonial traditions practiced by Upper Paleolithic hunter-gatherers. The hybrid design suggests an early form of myth-making, a blending of human identity with the strength and power of an animal. Cave lions, now extinct, were among the most formidable predators of Ice Age Europe. Depicting them in hybrid form may have represented spiritual guardianship, transformation, or power. The craftsmanship of the sculpture is remarkable. Mammoth ivory is extremely hard and difficult to carve, yet the artist shaped the figure with precision. Fine incisions mark the mane around the lion's head. The torso shows carved lines representing musculature. The surface of the ivory still carries small, deliberate tool marks. These cuts reflect a slow, careful process, likely carried out over many days or weeks. The artisan would have needed both skill and intention, working with flint blades and stone tools to shape the ivory without breaking it. The figure's size for its time is also significant. Most Ice Age carvings are small, pendants, figurines, or tools designed for mobility. A figure of this scale and detail suggests that it was not meant to be carried. Instead, it was likely kept in a specific place within the cave, possibly on a stone platform or in a designated ritual area. Its location deep inside the cave supports the idea of ceremonial use. Caves often served as symbolic environments for early humans, representing worlds beyond ordinary experience. The Lion Man reveals an important shift in human cognition, the ability to imagine beings that did not exist in nature. This capacity for symbolic thought is considered foundational for religion, myth, and cultural identity. The hybrid form reflects an early belief in transformation or connection between humans and animals. Many later cultures worldwide developed mythic creatures combining human and animal features. The Lion Man shows that this idea began far earlier than previously believed. Radiocarbon dating of surrounding deposits suggests that the sculpture was created around 38,000 to 40,000 years ago. This places it within the Arid Nation period, when modern humans first spread into Europe. The presence of such sophisticated art indicates that symbolic systems and shared cultural practices emerged quickly among these early groups. The Lion Man stands as evidence that early societies possessed not only practical survival skills, but also complex understandings of identity and spirituality. The cave where the sculpture was found was carefully excavated. Layers of sediment were removed slowly to document each artifact's position. Besides the Lion Man fragments, archaeologists found stone tools, animal bones, and small ornaments. These finds help reconstruct the activities that took place in the cave. The presence of mammoth ivory indicates connections to hunting practices and the reuse of valuable materials. Ivory was prized not only for tools but also for symbolic objects like the Lion Man. The reconstruction of the figure took decades. Early attempts left gaps, but later discoveries of missing pieces allowed the sculpture to be completed more accurately. Modern imaging techniques, including 3D scanning, help document each piece and reveal carving patterns. These studies show that the artist shaped the figure symmetrically, following a planned design. The precision suggests that the creator had experience working with ivory and was part of a tradition of skilled craftsmanship. The meaning of the Lion Man remains debated. Some scholars view it as a shamanic figure, a person imagined in a state of transformation during ritual. In many traditional societies, shamans were believed to take on animal forms during spiritual journeys. The figure's hybrid form may reflect such beliefs. Others interpret it as a deity or mythic ancestor, representing power, protection, or identity for a group. Regardless of interpretation, the figure demonstrates that early humans used art to express concepts far beyond the immediate world. The social context of the figure is also important. Creating a sculpture of this scale required time that might otherwise have been used for hunting or tool-making. This suggests that early human groups supported specialized activities, including artistic production. The presence of the Lion Man reflects communal values that placed importance on symbolic expression. The sculpture may have been used during group gatherings, initiation rituals, or seasonal ceremonies. Surrounding artifacts reveal that the people of the region hunted large animals such as mammoths, reindeer, and horses. They lived in small groups, moving across the landscape according to seasonal resources. The creation of the Lion Man within this lifestyle shows that artistic and symbolic practices were integrated into daily life rather than separate from it. The figure represents a blending of practical knowledge and creative imagination. The environment of Ice Age Europe also shaped the meaning of the sculpture. Cave lions were apex predators, respected and feared. By depicting a figure with a lion's head, early humans acknowledged the animal's power. The combination of human and lion qualities may have symbolized mastery over the landscape or a connection to forces beyond ordinary experience. Today, the Lion Man is displayed in a museum in Ulm, Germany, where it draws visitors from around the world. The sculpture continues to generate research on early human cognition. Studies of tool marks, ivory properties, and carving techniques reveal the level of skill involved in its creation. The figure's survival is remarkable considering its age and the fragility of ivory. Conservation efforts focus on stabilizing the material and preventing cracks. For archaeologists, the Lion Man represents one of the strongest pieces of evidence that symbolic expression emerged early in human history. It challenges older assumptions that art developed gradually. Instead, the sculpture shows that the ability to imagine and create complex symbolic forms existed at the very beginning of modern human presence in Europe. The colossal Lion Man of Hohenstein stands today as a testament to the imagination of early humans. Its hybrid form, carved with patience and care, reveals a society capable of deep symbolic thought. Through this figure, we glimpse a world where myth, identity, and ritual were already woven into the fabric of daily life more than 35,000 years ago. The massive 3-meter stone mask of Teotihuacan. In the ceremonial heart of Teotihuacan, beneath the shadow of the Pyramid of the Sun and the long Avenue of the Dead, rises a structure covered in some of the most powerful stone images in ancient Mesoamerica. This is the Temple of the Feathered Serpent, and across its stepped facade sit enormous sculpted masks, stone faces nearly 3 meters across, carved from volcanic rock and placed deep into the body of the pyramid. These masks, part serpent and part supernatural guardian, stand as some of the largest carved faces from the ancient Americas. The masks dominate the pyramid's exterior. Each one appears to emerge from the stone blocks, framed by feathered collars or serpentine forms. The most famous masks represent the feathered serpent, a deity linked to wind, water, fertility, and rulership. Nearby, alternating masks represent another powerful figure, often interpreted as a war serpent or storm deity. Together they form a repeating sequence across the pyramid, creating a facade of alternating divine forces. Each mask is carved with deep, sharp features. The eyes are circular and forward-facing. The mouth displays fangs or curved teeth. Feathered elements surround the head, forming a halo-like frame. Many masks were originally painted in bright colors, reds, blues, greens, and yellows, though most of the pigment has faded. Even without color, the scale and detail of the carvings remain striking. The masks were not simply decorations. They were part of a broader architectural and ritual program that shaped the identity of Teotihuacan. Built around the 3rd century CE, the Temple of the Feathered Serpent was one of the city's earliest major structures. Its construction required thousands of stone blocks, organized labor, and coordinated planning. The stone masks, each weighing several tons, were placed carefully into the facade, locked between layers of stone. Their placement suggests that the builders saw them as essential symbolic components. The feathered serpent was associated with rainfall, agricultural fertility, and cosmic order. The storm or war serpent represented power, conflict, and protection. By alternating these masks, the temple communicated a balance between creation and defense. This may have reflected Teotihuacan's political ideology, projecting both prosperity and military strength. Archaeological excavations around the temple reveal that the masks were installed during a period of rising population and growing urban influence. Teotihuacan's expansion depended on organized labor and shared belief systems. The masks likely played a role in ceremonies involving offerings, processions, and public gatherings. Their imposing size made them visible from long distances, reinforcing the city's authority. The construction of the masks required technical skill. Volcanic stone blocks were quarried from nearby deposits, shaped with stone tools, and transported to the building site. Carvers used percussion techniques to rough the shape and finer tools to smooth details. The depth of carving shows deliberate layering, with the most important features raised from the background stone. The size of each mask required scaffolding and coordinated lifting methods. Teams of workers likely used wooden beams, ropes, and earthen ramps to set the masks into the wall. Excavations beneath the Temple of the Feathered Serpent revealed large caches of offerings. More than 100 sacrificial victims, obsidian blades, shells, jaguar remains, and ritual objects were buried during construction. These deposits reflect the religious significance of the masks. The building itself served as a massive ceremonial stage, and the masks were symbols of divine presence overseeing these rituals. The masks also reveal stylistic features unique to Teotihuacan. The city developed a distinctive artistic language, characterized by geometric designs, abstract faces, and layered iconography. The stone masks display this style clearly: the feathered frames, the circular eyes, and the symbolic fangs. Later Mesoamerican cultures, including the Maya and Aztecs, adopted and adapted these motifs, showing Teotihuacan's influence across centuries. Weathering has affected the masks, but many retain sharp lines. Cracks, erosion, and vegetation growth have damaged some faces, but conservation teams have stabilized vulnerable sections. Modern scanning and imaging help preserve details digitally, allowing researchers to study carving techniques and iconography without physically altering the stone. The masks once formed part of a larger decorative system. Sculpted serpent bodies wrapped around the pyramid, with carved scales and circular ornaments. The masks served as the heads of these serpents. Today, only portions remain in place, but fragments recovered from excavations help reconstruct the original layout. These reconstructions show that the entire facade was once alive with carved creatures emerging from the stone. The symbolism of the masks extends beyond the temple. Throughout Teotihuacan, similar faces appear in murals, small sculptures, and household shrines. The feathered serpent, in particular, appears in painted scenes showing ritual activities, offerings, and cosmic symbolism. The repeating presence of this deity indicates its central role in Teotihuacan belief systems. The size of the masks conveys authority. A 3-meter stone face towering over a plaza would have created an overwhelming visual impact, especially during ceremonies with music, fire, and incense. Participants in these rituals would have seen the masks illuminated by torches or sunlight, their carved features casting deep shadows. This environment created a powerful connection between the physical space and the symbolic world. Archaeologists studying wear patterns on the masks discovered areas smoothed by centuries of rain and wind. Some sections show surface pitting caused by moisture trapped within cracks. Conservation work focuses on stabilizing the stone while preserving original details. The masks reflect the challenge of protecting ancient monuments exposed to the elements. The temple surrounding the masks was eventually covered by a later construction phase, burying parts of the facade. This protective layer helped preserve the masks but also indicates a shift in religious or political focus. As Teotihuacan grew, leaders built new structures and modified older ones. The decision to partially bury the masks may reflect changing rituals or the rise of new deities. Even in partial view, the masks remain among the clearest symbols of Teotihuacan's identity. Their combination of scale, detail, and symbolic power encapsulates the city's blend of engineering and spirituality. They show how architecture served not just practical needs but also expressed cosmic stories and political messages. Today, the massive stone masks of Teotihuacan continue to fascinate archaeologists and visitors. They embody the strength of ancient craftsmanship, the depth of Mesoamerican belief, and the ambition of a city that shaped regional culture for centuries. Through ongoing study, the masks reveal new insights into how Teotihuacan built its monumental centers, organized its rituals, and projected its vision of the world. The Big Lion Statuary of Kerma. In the desert plains of northern Sudan, along a bend of the Nile that once supported one of Africa's earliest kingdoms, archaeologists uncovered a set of stone lions, unlike anything else found in the region. These lion statues, associated with the ancient city of Kerma, show a level of craftsmanship, symbolism, and artistic confidence rarely seen in early Nubian sculpture. Standing broad and powerful, carved from dark granite and placed near royal buildings, the lions reflect a tradition of authority and spiritual protection that defined one of the oldest kingdoms south of Egypt. Kerma flourished between 2500 and 1500 BCE, long before the rise of the classical Kushite Empire. It was an independent center with its own architecture, burial customs, and religious practices. At its core stood the Dafufa, a massive mud brick structure that served ceremonial purposes. Nearby, archaeologists discovered the large stone lions, placed near burial tumuli or settlement areas linked to elites. Their size, weight, and refined carving show that they were significant objects meant to mark important locations or guard ceremonial entrances. The lion statuary of Kerma is easily recognizable. The bodies are carved in a crouched stance, with broad shoulders, rounded backs, and expressive heads. The faces show wide jaws, prominent noses, and stylized eyes. Some lions have smooth surfaces, while others display carved fur patterns. Carvers used granite, a material extremely hard to work, which shows the level of effort invested. With only stone tools available, shaping granite required patience, controlled percussion, and grinding with abrasive materials. The presence of lions in Kerma's artistic tradition reflects both local wildlife and symbolic meaning. Lions lived in the savanna regions of ancient Sudan and were well known to the people of Kerma. As apex predators, they represented strength, leadership, and protection. Their association with royalty fits well with archaeological findings showing Kerma's ruling class buried with elaborate grave goods including weapons, pottery, and imported items. Placing lions near graves may have signified guardianship over the deceased or served as markers of rank. The discovery of the lion statues began during excavations led by Swiss archaeologist Charles Bonnet in the late 20th century. Teams uncovered not only the lions but also a wide complex of buildings, workshops, pottery kilns, and burial mounds. The lions were found near structures associated with elite activities. Their placement suggests intentional orientation, possibly aligned to pathways or ritual routes. Some were set beside entrances, others near burial complexes, forming a symbolic threshold between living and ancestral spaces. Close examination of tool marks shows that artisans shaped the statues in stages. The initial form was roughed out using heavy hammerstones, followed by more precise shaping with smaller tools. The final smoothing was achieved using sand or quartz grains rubbed against the granite surface. This process created clean lines around the face and defined muscle shapes across the body. Even with weathering, the original skill remains visible. Kerma's lion statues differ from Egyptian lion imagery of the same period. Egyptian lions often appear in sphinx form or as part of temple decorations. The Kerma lions, by contrast, are more compact and grounded. They are designed as freestanding sculptures rather than architectural extensions. This distinction helps archaeologists understand the independent artistic tradition of early Nubia. The lions represent a style that is neither Egyptian nor later Kushite, but uniquely Kerma. The discovery of multiple lion statues in the region indicates an established tradition, not isolated creations. Some lions appear in the Western Cemetery area, one of the largest burial complexes of ancient Africa. This cemetery contains thousands of graves arranged in clusters, reflecting family or clan organization. The placement of lions near certain tombs underscores their symbolic connection to elite lineages. One statue in particular stands out for its size and preservation. Carved from a single massive block, it shows a lion with a slightly turned head, as if watching over the landscape. The jaw is opened slightly, and the expression appears alert. The positioning suggests vigilance, reinforcing the idea of guardianship. Weathering on the back and sides shows long exposure to desert winds, but the facial features remain strong. Archaeologists studying Kerma emphasize the importance of the city as a regional power. For centuries, it rivaled Egypt along the Nile, at times controlling long stretches of territory to the north. The lion statues help illustrate this authority. Their strength reflects Kerma's military capability, while their craftsmanship reveals a sophisticated community with specialized artisans. The statues served not only symbolic roles but also projected political identity. Environmental studies reveal that ancient Kerma was surrounded by fertile land. Seasonal floods from the Nile supported agriculture, allowing the population to grow. The city served as a hub for long-distance trade, connecting sub-Saharan Africa to the Mediterranean world. Goods such as ivory, gold, incense, and animal skins passed through Kerma. The wealth generated from trade likely supported the production of monumental art, including the lion statues. The lions also reflect spiritual beliefs. Although written records are scarce, archaeological evidence suggests that Kerma had complex religious practices involving ancestor veneration, animal symbolism, and ceremonial architecture. The lions may have represented protective spirits or symbolic animals associated with deities. Their placement around ritual structures reinforces this interpretation. Further excavations uncovered additional fragments, including paws, tails, and carved bases, likely belonging to other lions. These fragments help reconstruct the original arrangement of statues around key structures. Some lions may have been paired, forming symmetrical guardians on either side of an entrance. Others may have stood alone as markers of special locations within the settlement. Conservation efforts today focus on stabilizing the granite and protecting the statues from environmental damage. Exposure to wind, sand, and temperature fluctuations can cause surface cracks. Museums and archaeological parks in Sudan work to preserve these artifacts, using shelters and controlled environments. Digital scanning records each detail, allowing researchers to study the statues even if future erosion occurs. The lion statues contribute to a broader understanding of early African civilizations. Too often, histories of ancient Africa focus primarily on Egypt. Kerma demonstrates that powerful independent kingdoms flourished south of the Nile's first cataract, long before the later Kushite Empire. The lion statuary reveals an artistic heritage that is distinct, confident, and deeply rooted in local culture. Visitors today who walk through the site of Kerma can see reconstructions of ancient buildings and view the surviving lions in museum settings. The contrast between the smooth curves of the carved granite and the open desert around them creates a sense of timelessness. The statues serve as reminders of a kingdom that once controlled trade routes, built monumental structures, and expressed its identity through powerful stone art. The Big Lion statuary of Kerma stands as one of the strongest examples of early Nubian sculpture. Its craftsmanship, symbolism, and context reveal a society that valued strength, continuity, and ceremonial presence. Through these statues, the ancient kingdom expresses its ideals in a form that still commands attention thousands of years later. The giant Jomon stone circle monoliths. Japan's. In the far north of Japan's main island, deep in the landscapes shaped by forests, rivers, and volcanic soil, sits one of the most important archaeological sites of the Jomon period, the Oyu stone circles. Unlike European stone circles made thousands of years later, the Oyu complex was built during Japan's prehistoric Jomon era, around 2000 BCE, by hunter-gatherer communities known for pottery, ritual traditions, and long-lived settlements. At Oyu, two vast circles of stones contain a series of large monoliths, standing stones, and ritual features that reveal how these early communities shaped their social and spiritual world. The larger of the two circles, called the Manza Circle, measures more than 40 meters across. Next to it stands the Nanakado Circle, slightly smaller but built with the same precision. Both circles consist of hundreds of stones arranged in ordered rows, pathways, and internal alignments. In the center of these circles, archaeologists discovered several larger monoliths, stones weighing several tons each. These monoliths form the core of ritual activity, acting as markers, alignments, or symbolic objects around which the Jomon people gathered. The monoliths vary in shape. Some stand upright, others lay horizontally in deliberate placement. Their arrangement is not random. Excavations show that the stones were brought from riverbeds kilometers away, suggesting planned transportation and construction. Without wheels, metal tools, or draft animals, the Jomon communities used manpower, wooden sleds, and seasonal ice or snow to move these stones. The scale of effort demonstrates that the circles served purposes beyond practical needs. Archaeologists studying the site note that the OU circles were likely centers of seasonal gatherings. The arrangement of monoliths aligns with solar positions, especially the sunrise and sunset during summer and winter solstices. This indicates a knowledge of celestial cycles. The large monoliths may have served as markers for timekeeping, helping communities track the seasons for fishing, foraging, and ritual events. In addition to astronomical alignment, the monoliths show signs of ritual use. Burned soil, charcoal, and concentrations of pottery fragments near the stones suggest that gatherings involved fire-based ceremonies. Nearby pits contain offerings such as decorated pottery, stone tools, and items from distant regions, implying long-distance exchange networks. The repeated placement of objects in specific patterns reveals a structured ritual practice tied to the monoliths. The circles also include linear arrangements of stones leading into the central area, like pathways or processional routes. These lines guide movement across the space, suggesting organized gatherings where participants walked along designated corridors. The monoliths anchor these routes, acting as visual and symbolic focal points. While Jomon society was not urban, it was socially complex. Communities along the northern coast built long-lasting settlements, developed pottery traditions, and maintained extensive trade connections. The construction of large stone circles reflects group-level coordination. The people who built OU likely returned seasonally for rituals, reunions, and exchanges. The monoliths were central to these gatherings, shaping the layout and meaning of the space. The stones themselves come from river rock, shaped not by carving but by careful selection. The Jomon people chose stones of specific size, color, or texture. Some monoliths have flat surfaces that catch sunlight at specific angles. Others reflect the natural landscape, creating visual links between the stones and surrounding hills. In this sense, the monoliths connect human-built space with natural geography. Excavations reveal that the circles evolved over centuries. Stones were moved, replaced, or repositioned according to changing rituals or community needs. Some monoliths show signs of wear from repeated handling or contact. Others appear to have been integrated into new arrangements as generations reshaped the ceremonial ground. This long-term use indicates continuity in belief systems across hundreds of years. The Jomon period is known for its distinctive pottery with elaborate patterns and deep incised lines. Pottery fragments found near the monoliths include ceremonial vessels and everyday wares. Their presence suggests that rituals at OU blended the spiritual with the communal. Stone circles may have served as locations for feasting, storytelling, and seasonal events along with formal ceremonies. Nearby pits filled with stones and artifacts reveal additional layers of meaning. Some pits contain clusters of smaller stones arranged around central monoliths. These features may represent markers for ancestral spirits or symbolic boundaries within the circle. The positioning of large monoliths near these pits suggests that the stones functioned as anchors for ritual locations, guiding where offerings were placed. The site's scale and detail show that the Jomon people possessed a deep understanding of their environment. The stone circles incorporate local geology, astronomical knowledge, and social organization. The placement of monoliths reflects intentional design rather than improvisation. This complexity challenges earlier assumptions that Jomon hunter-gatherers lacked large-scale ceremonial structures. Environmental studies suggest that the region's climate during the Jomon period was warmer and more stable than today. Abundant forests, rivers, and coastal resources supported sizable communities. With reliable food sources, groups could invest time in creating ritual centers like OU. The monoliths symbolize this investment, representing shared identity and collective memory. Modern research uses 3D mapping, drone surveys, and soil analysis to reconstruct how the circles looked when active. Studies show that certain monoliths align with the setting sun during midsummer, casting long shadows across specific stone pathways. These alignments may have marked ceremonial times or guided rituals involving movement and light. Today, the OU stone circles are preserved as one of Japan's largest prehistoric ceremonial sites. Visitors can walk among the reconstructed stones, surrounded by rural landscapes that still resemble the environment of the Jomon period. The monoliths stand quietly within the circles, their surfaces shaped by centuries of weather. Though simple in form, their placement conveys a sense of order and significance. The giant Jomon stone circle monoliths highlight a time when early communities used stone not for buildings or fortifications, but for marking shared space and collective identity. Their careful arrangement shows a community attuned to seasonal cycles, landscape features, and social gathering. These monoliths stand as reminders of a society that expressed its beliefs through open-air architecture, long before written records or state-level systems emerged in Japan. Through continued study, archaeologists uncover more about the rituals that once took place here. Yet the monoliths themselves remain the most direct link to the people who built them. Their size, placement, and endurance give us a glimpse into a prehistoric world where stone, sky, and community shaped the foundations of spiritual life. The huge Sphinx Avenue statues of Egypt. In the ancient city of Thebes, once the religious heart of Egypt, a long avenue once connected two of the most important temples in the Nile Valley, the Temple of Karnak and the Temple of Luxor. For more than 2 kilometers, this processional path was lined with hundreds of monumental sphinx statues. Unlike the human-headed sphinxes found near Giza, many of these were ram-headed, forming an avenue dominated by the image of Amun, the chief god of Thebes. These ram sphinx, also called cryosphinxes, stood as guardians of the temple precincts and symbols of royal protection. Their massive size and repeating presence made the avenue one of the most striking ceremonial structures in ancient Egypt. The avenue was constructed in stages, with earlier forms dating back to the New Kingdom, around 1400 to 1200 BCE. Later pharaohs expanded and restored it, especially during the reign of Nectinebo I in the 4th century BCE, who ordered many of the ram sphinxes we see today. Each sphinx was carved from limestone blocks and weighed several tons. The body takes the shape of a reclining lion, symbolizing power and authority. The head is that of a ram, representing the god Amun in his protective form. Between the front paws of many sphinxes sits a small statue of the pharaoh, held as if under divine care. The positioning of these statues created a ceremonial corridor. During major festivals, especially the Opet festival, priests carried the sacred bark of Amun along this route. Crowds gathered to watch the procession pass underneath the watchful gazes of the ram sphinxes. The avenue served as both a physical pathway and a symbolic journey, reinforcing the relationship between the king, the god, and the city. The repetitive design of the sphinxes created a rhythm of shapes guiding participants toward the temple gates. Each statue was carefully carved with attention to proportion. The ram's curved horns, gentle eyes, and muscular neck were shaped to evoke strength and calm authority. Although the bodies followed a standardized form, details varied slightly from statue to statue, reflecting the work of different artisan groups. Some sphinxes preserve traces of paint, suggesting that the entire avenue may once have been brightly colored. Over time, weathering softened the features, but many statues still retain recognizable details. Archaeological excavations show that the avenue was built on a raised stone foundation. Beneath the sphinxes, workers placed compacted gravel and mud brick layers to stabilize the ground. This ensured that the statues remained level even as the Nile's water levels changed. Drainage channels ran alongside the road to prevent water damage during annual floods. The engineering behind the avenue demonstrates the Egyptians' understanding of both symbolic design and practical construction. The ram sphinx was closely tied to Amun's identity. In Egyptian religion, Amun could appear in multiple forms. As a human figure, he embodied kingship. As a ram, he represented fertility, creation, and protective strength. The combination of lion body and ram head created a hybrid guardian, merging earthly and divine qualities. By placing hundreds of these figures along a sacred route, the Egyptians emphasized Amun's constant presence and protection over the city. Inscriptions and reliefs from temple walls describe the Opet festival in detail. During this event, the statue of Amun traveled from Karnak to Luxor, symbolizing rejuvenation of kingship and renewal of cosmic order. The ram sphinxes served as the silent witnesses of this journey, their stone forms framing the path. The sheer number of statues, estimated to be more than 700, reflects the scale of the festival and the importance of visual symbolism in Egyptian ceremonial life. Excavations along the avenue revealed foundations of small chapels built between the sphinxes. These chapels held offering tables, water basins, and stone altars. They were likely used during processions to pause, refresh the bark bearers, or perform short rituals. The integration of chapels and sphinxes shows that the entire avenue functioned as a sacred landscape, not merely a road. The sphinxes themselves show variations depending on the period of construction. Some early examples have more leonine features, while later ones emphasize the ram's head more strongly. Over centuries, different pharaohs restored damaged statues or added new ones. This long timeline means the avenue reflects multiple artistic styles layered onto the same ceremonial concept. Modern excavations also uncovered evidence of ancient workshops nearby, where blocks were shaped before being moved into position. Tool marks on unfinished sphinx fragments show how artisans worked the limestone using copper chisels, wooden mallets, and abrasive stones. Rough shaping was followed by detailed carving of facial features and smoothing of surfaces. The final installation required ramps and wooden sleds to slide the statues into place. As millennia passed, sand and mud gradually buried the sphinxes. Some were completely submerged under meters of soil. Houses, roads, and fields were built over parts of the avenue. It wasn't until modern archaeological efforts in the 20th and 21st centuries that the full extent of the avenue became clear. Excavation teams carefully removed debris, restored broken sections, and stabilized fragile stones. The most intensive restoration occurred between 2010 and 2021, when Egypt reopened the entire avenue in a large cultural ceremony. During restoration, teams documented every sphinx, noting cracks, erosion patterns, and missing features. Some statues required reinforcement with new limestone patches, while others were reset on new stone bases. Drainage systems were added to prevent future water damage. The restoration revealed details lost for centuries, including worn inscriptions and traces of carved patterns around the ram's head. The modern unveiling of the avenue highlighted how central the ram sphinxes were to ancient Thebes. Standing in long rows, their forms restored, they recreate the sense of ceremonial movement that once defined the sacred spaces of Karnak and Luxor. Visitors walking the avenue today experience a reconstructed version of the ancient pathway, guided by the same stone guardians seen by pharaohs, priests, and citizens thousands of years ago. The huge Ram Sphinx Avenue represents a rare blend of architecture, religion, and landscape design. It reflects the Egyptian belief that the physical environment could be shaped to mirror cosmic order. The repeated image of the Ram deity reinforced Amun's role as protector and creator. The statues marked a connection between the earthly city and the spiritual world, guiding ritual processions that renewed political and religious life. In archaeological terms, the avenue also provides insight into the logistics of large-scale construction. Transporting hundreds of multi-ton statues required resources and coordination across generations. Restoring the avenue shows how enduring these constructions are when built on stable foundations and maintained through centuries of royal investment. The Stone King's Throne of Machu Picchu. High on a ridge above the Urubamba River, surrounded by steep green mountains and drifting mist, Machu Picchu remains one of the most iconic archaeological sites in the world. Built during the height of the Inca Empire, the citadel includes terraces, temples, residences, fountains, and carefully carved stone outcrops. Among these features is a carved seat, known today as the King's Throne. This stone feature, shaped directly from the mountain bedrock, stands in a small ceremonial space overlooking the city. While its original purpose remains uncertain, the carving reflects the Inca mastery of stonework and their ability to merge architecture with natural landscape. The throne is not a separate structure moved into place. It is carved directly from the same granite that forms the mountain. Its shape resembles a stepped seat, with a backrest rising at a slight angle. The front faces toward the valley, giving a commanding view of the terraces below. The polished surface and precise angles show a level of craftsmanship achieved without metal tools. The throne appears simple at first glance, but its alignment, placement, and context suggest that it played a role in ritual or administrative activities at Machu Picchu. The area surrounding the throne is part of what archaeologists call the royal sector. This zone includes residences with fine masonry, private courtyards, and restricted access. The clustering of high-quality buildings suggests that this part of the site was used by elite individuals, possibly including the Sapa Inca, the emperor, during visits. If Machu Picchu served as a royal retreat or ceremonial station, the throne may have been used for state rituals, audiences, or symbolic performances carried out by the empire's leaders. The Inca approach to stone architecture focused on working with the natural forms of the landscape. Instead of cutting stones into identical blocks, builders used existing outcrops, shaping them to fit the architectural design. The King's Throne exemplifies this method. The natural rock was carved to create a smooth, flat seat with defined borders. Carving marks show that workers removed thin layers of stone using pounding and polishing techniques. The resulting form is both functional and symbolic, integrating the natural environment with constructed space. Some researchers interpret the throne as a huaca, a sacred place connected to the Inca worldview. In Andean belief systems, stones, mountains, springs, and other natural features held spiritual power. By carving the throne into the bedrock, the Inca may have been reinforcing a connection between leadership and the sacred landscape. Sitting on the throne could have symbolized the ruler's relationship with the mountains, sky, and surrounding valleys. The placement of the throne also links it to astronomical and visual alignments. Machu Picchu is known for its precise orientation to solar events. Key structures align with the winter and summer solstices, marking seasonal transitions central to Inca agricultural cycles. The throne faces a direction that allows the viewer to see important features such as Huayna Picchu and the agricultural terraces. This suggests that ceremonial observations or ritual announcements could have taken place from this seat. The throne's connection to the surrounding structures provides more context. Nearby rooms contain niches and trapezoidal windows typical of elite architecture. Water channels run through the sector, feeding fountains that reflect the importance of ritual purification. The throne may have been part of a sequence of ritual actions conducted in the royal enclosure. Its elevated full view of the site underscores its importance. Excavations in the royal sector uncovered fine ceramics, bronze tools, and artifacts associated with high-status life. These items suggest that the area around the throne served as a residence for nobles or attendants. The throne may have marked a space where official decisions, rituals, or greetings took place. While no written records describe its exact use, spatial analysis helps reconstruct how the area functioned. Stone seats of similar design appear at other Inca sites, including Ollantaytambo and Sacsayhuaman. These carved benches and thrones are often placed near ceremonial structures, plazas, or important pathways. Their repeated presence across the empire suggests a shared symbolic meaning. They may have served as places for ritual seating, ancestral offerings, or symbolic connection between the ruler and the land. The king's throne at Machu Picchu differs in that it is carved directly from the mountain rather than constructed from assembled blocks. This method reinforces the idea of permanence. The throne appears as an extension of the earth itself, symbolizing stability and continuity. In Inca ideology, the ruler was not only a political leader, but also a mediator between natural forces and human society. A seat carved from bedrock echoes this role. Weathering has softened some edges, but the main contours remain intact. The smoothness of the seat suggests repeated use. Water flow during rainy seasons did not heavily erode the surface, thanks to the natural drainage of the slope. Archaeologists studying wear patterns note that the throne's position remains sheltered by nearby terraces and walls, protecting it from heavy runoff. The surroundings include steps carved from the same bedrock, forming platforms and pathways leading toward the throne. These steps show how the Inca reshaped the mountain to create a structured ceremonial environment. The throne sits at a slightly raised position compared to the surrounding platforms, suggesting its central role in the area's layout. Interpretations vary on whether the throne was used daily or reserved for special events. Some scholars believe it served as a vantage point for overseeing agricultural activities. Others propose it was used for ritual seating during ceremonies tied to the sun, ancestors, or seasonal cycles. The lack of domestic debris around the throne supports the idea that it was part of a ceremonial zone rather than a living space. The Inca construction methods at Machu Picchu relied on knowledge passed down through generations. Builders shaped stone using hammerstones, sand abrasion, and wooden tools. The precision achieved without metal chisels reflects their skill in working with hard granite. The throne's surface shows the same finishing techniques used on finely carved walls nearby. Modern conservation efforts aim to protect the throne from erosion and foot traffic. Visitors are not allowed to sit on it, but can observe from nearby pathways. Archaeologists use 3D scans to document its current condition and track any changes. The scans reveal subtle tool marks and polish lines, offering clues about how the artisans shaped the rock. The larger context of Machu Picchu helps explain the throne's meaning. The site includes agricultural terraces, astronomical observatories, temples dedicated to the sun, and residential areas. These elements form a cohesive layout reflecting Inca cosmology. The throne fits into this landscape as a point of leadership, symbolism, or ritual connection. Its presence enhances the sense that Machu Picchu was not simply a settlement, but a carefully planned ceremonial center. The giant Nabatean lion relief of Hegra. In the desert landscapes of northwest Saudi Arabia, carved into towering sandstone cliffs, lies the ancient Nabatean city of Hegra, also known as Alula or Madain Salih. While best known for its monumental rock-cut tombs, similar in style to Petra, Hegra also preserves a set of impressive stone reliefs. Among these carvings, one stands out for both its scale and its symbolic presence, the giant lion relief. Cut into the entrance of a monumental tomb, the lion appears in bold profile, its form emerging directly from the rock face. Its size, execution, and placement reveal how the Nabateans blended local traditions, protective symbolism, and advanced stone carving techniques. The lion relief measures over 1.5 meters in height, carved with deep cuts and clearly defined anatomical features. The head is large and forward-facing, with rounded ears and a strong jaw. The body stretches along the cliff face, showing muscular limbs and a thick chest. The carving is not simply decorative. It appears beside the doorway of a rock-cut tomb, indicating a protective role. The lion watches over the entrance, serving as a symbolic guardian for the burial chamber within. The Nabateans, a trading civilization that flourished between the 1st century BCE and the 2nd century CE, built Hegra as a major southern center of their kingdom. They controlled caravan routes carrying incense, spices, textiles, and luxury goods between Arabia and the Mediterranean. Their wealth allowed them to carve monumental structures directly into sandstone cliffs. The giant reliefs at Hegra, including the lion, reflect this combination of economic power and artistic ambition. Lions held deep symbolic meaning in Nabatean culture. They represented strength, protection, and divine guardianship. In the broader Near Eastern world, lions often appeared at temple gates or tomb entrances. Their presence signified watchfulness and authority. At Hegra, the lion appears repeatedly in rock-cut carvings, either alone or as paired guardians flanking doorways. The giant lion relief is one of the best preserved examples, showing a style that blends local Arabian traditions with influences from Mesopotamia, Egypt, and the Hellenistic world. Carving the relief required skill and planning. Artisans used iron chisels, wooden mallets, and abrasive stones. The deep cuts around the lion's outline show where workers removed large portions of stone to create contrast between figure and background. The internal details, muscles, mane, and facial features were shaped with smaller tools. Sandstone allowed for precise carving, but also weathered quickly, so craftsmen had to shape deeper cuts to preserve the form over time. The relief's placement next to a tomb entrance suggests a role in funerary beliefs. The Nabateans believed in an afterlife where spirits journeyed beyond the physical world. Tombs often included carved symbols, rosettes, eagles, urns, and lions to guide or protect the deceased. The lion, with its strength and alert posture, served as a guardian to keep harmful forces away. Its presence also marked the tomb as belonging to a high-status individual, reflecting wealth and social standing. Hegra's tombs vary in complexity, but those with carved facades and reliefs typically belong to prominent families. The giant lion relief appears on the facade of a tomb with an elaborate stepped crown and decorated lintels. These architectural features reflect Hellenistic influence, showing that the Nabateans incorporated foreign designs while maintaining local symbols such as the lion. This blending of styles is characteristic of their art. Archaeological studies reveal that Hegra was more than an acropolis. It included wells, residential areas, sanctuaries, and administrative buildings. Stone inscriptions record names of officials, priests, and merchants. The presence of lion reliefs near tombs suggests that funerary practices were a major part of community life. People visiting tombs for rituals or commemorations would have seen these protective carvings prominently displayed. Weathering has affected the relief over centuries. Wind erosion softened some lines, and sandstorms removed fine details. But the lion's major features remain clear. Conservation teams work to stabilize the sandstone, using treatments to reduce flaking and prevent further deterioration. High-resolution digital scans record the carving's current state, helping researchers track erosion patterns and document tool marks. The style of the relief offers clues about the Nabatean approach to animal symbolism. Compared to Egyptian or Mesopotamian lion carvings, the Hegra lion is more rounded and compact. Its body is simplified, focusing on essential shapes rather than fine detail. This reflects a local aesthetic that valued clear outlines, deep carving, and strong silhouettes. The result is a figure that reads clearly from a distance and stands out against the flat rock surface. Large lion reliefs also appear at Petra, the Nabatean capital in Jordan, but the Hegra examples show regional variation. The lions of Petra often carry water channels or symbolic features linked to ritual water use. At Hegra, the lion serves more directly as a guardian figure. This difference highlights the diversity within the Nabatean kingdom and the adaptation of shared symbols to local contexts. Excavations near the giant lion relief uncovered pottery, incense burners, and fragments of stone tools. These finds indicate that the area around the tombs saw regular activity, ritual offerings, mourning practices, or visits by family members. The lion relief would have been part of this experience, acting as a visual cue marking the transition from the living world to the realm of ancestors. The sheer number of carved tombs at Hegra, over 130 with decorated facades, shows the city's importance. The giant lion relief adds to this picture by demonstrating the Nabatean ability to blend architecture, belief, and landscape. The carving anchors the tomb within the cliff, creating a visual presence that ties human activity to the natural rock formations. Today, the giant lion relief is one of the most photographed features of Hegra. Visitors walk along the sandy paths between towering tomb facades, encountering lions, eagles, and geometric designs carved more than 2,000 years ago. Standing in front of the relief, the scale of the carving becomes clear. The lion appears both monumental and integrated into the cliff, a guardian shaped from the same stone as the tomb it protects. Through continued study, archaeologists gain insight into how the Nabateans viewed life, death, and protection. The giant lion relief serves as a window into a culture that used monumental art not only to honor the dead, but to assert identity and belief within a changing landscape. Its presence on the cliff face remains a powerful reminder of the creativity and skill of the people who carved a city from stone. The giant Nabatean lion relief of Hegra stands today as a symbol of ancient craftsmanship, desert resilience, and the deep connection between architecture and belief. Its carved form continues to guard the silent tomb entrances, just as it did during the height of the Nabatean kingdom. The 3-meter Buddha head of Ayutthaya, Thailand. In the ruined capital of Ayutthaya, where crumbling temples rise above quiet courtyards and headless statues sit among fallen bricks, one image stands out above all others: the enormous stone Buddha heads that once formed part of the city's great monastic complexes. Among them, the best-known examples are the massive heads that survived the city's destruction in the 18th century, including a remarkable 3-meter-tall head that speaks to the scale of Ayutthaya's once flourishing Buddhist architecture. This giant head, carved from sandstone and originally attached to a towering seated Buddha image, now stands alone, its expression calm despite centuries of conflict, weathering, and abandonment. Ayutthaya was founded in 1350 and grew into one of Southeast Asia's greatest cities. For more than 4 centuries, it served as a center of political power, international trade, and Buddhist scholarship. The city held enormous temples called wats, filled with towering Buddha statues clad in stucco, gold leaf, and bright pigments. Many of these statues reached 10 to 15 meters in height. Their heads alone could measure up to 3 meters, carved separately and then attached to the bodies using mortar and internal supports. The giant Buddha head at Ayutthaya represents this tradition of monumental sculpture. The surviving head shows classic features of Ayutthaya period Buddhist art. The face is broad and symmetrical, with smooth contours and gently arched eyebrows. The eyes are lowered in a meditative gaze. The lips form a slight, serene smile. Tight curls cover the head, rising to a lotus-shaped topknot called the ashnisha. Despite damage to the surface, the carving retains its sense of balance and composure. These stylistic traits reflect a period when Thai artisans developed a distinct visual language that blended local aesthetics with influences from Sukhothai, Khmer, and Sri Lankan traditions. The head was carved from sandstone, a material widely available in central Thailand. Carving such a large piece required teams of skilled artisans working together. Workers roughed out the shape using iron chisels before refining facial features with smaller tools. The final smoothing was achieved through abrasion with fine sand. Originally, the entire statue, including the head, would have been covered in stucco and painted. In some cases, gold leaf was applied over the surface, especially on the face. When the stucco wore away, or the statue weathered, the sandstone beneath became visible, creating the worn but striking look seen today. For centuries, Ayutthaya's temples served as centers of monastic life. Monks lived in nearby quarters, performed ceremonies, and taught religious texts. Lay people visited the temples to make offerings, participate in festivals, or seek blessings. The giant Buddha statues symbolized spiritual authority and royal patronage. Kings commissioned these statues to express devotion and demonstrate legitimacy. The size of the sculpted heads reflected not only religious significance but also the political strength of the kingdom. Everything changed in 1767, when the Burmese army captured and burned Ayutthaya after a long siege. The destruction left temples in ruins. Many Buddha statues were decapitated, some by looters seeking precious materials, others by structural collapse during fires. The 3-meter head, now displayed separately, once belonged to a larger statue within one of the major temple complexes. Its survival is partly due to the strength of its sandstone core, and partly by chance. While the body collapsed or burned, the head fell into rubble and remained protected beneath debris for centuries. When archaeologists began exploring the ruins in the 20th century, they recovered several large Buddha heads, including the giant one. Its surface shows scorch marks from the fires of 1767 and cracks formed by centuries of weathering. Yet the expression remains calm, preserving the artistic intent of its makers. The size of the head helps researchers estimate the original height of the statue. Based on proportions typical of the Ayutthaya period, the full figure would have stood at least 8 to 12 meters tall, possibly more. The location of the head also provides clues about its former context. Many large Buddha images at Ayutthaya were placed inside viharns, large assembly halls where monks chanted scriptures. These halls often had high ceilings and wide entrances to accommodate the towering statues. In other cases, giant statues stood in open courtyards or on raised platforms. The 3-meter head likely belonged to a statue positioned in a prominent place within one of these ceremonial areas. Its placement would have created a focal point for rituals, prayers, and royal ceremonies. Archaeologists studying the head identified traces of pigments on its surface. Microscopic analysis revealed remnants of red, black, and gold materials embedded in cracks and pores. These findings confirm that Ayutthaya's giant Buddha statues were once brightly colored rather than the weathered stone forms seen today. The discovery of pigments helps researchers understand how the original statue appeared to worshippers. When newly completed, the statue's head would have reflected light from gold leaf, making its presence visually striking during ceremonies. The head also reflects the inscriptive and symbolic traditions of Thai Buddhism. While the statue itself does not bear written text, nearby temple structures include inscriptions noting royal donations, names of craftsmen, and Buddhist verses. These contexts help interpret the head's role as part of a broader religious environment. Large Buddha statues were believed to embody spiritual presence. Their size symbolized the vast compassion and wisdom of the Buddha. Sitting before such a statue, devotees would have felt a sense of awe and closeness to the sacred. Conservation efforts today focus on stabilizing the sandstone, which is susceptible to cracking in humid and rainy conditions. Moisture seeps into the stone and expands during temperature changes, causing gradual deterioration. Preservation teams apply consolidants and maintain protective shelters around the head. They also use digital scanning to document its exact dimensions and surface conditions. These methods help ensure the long-term survival of the sculpture. The head's separation from its body invites reflection on the fragility of heritage. While Ayutthaya's ruins stand as symbols of Thailand's resilience, they also represent the losses caused by conflict and time. The giant Buddha head embodies both destruction and continuity. Its expression, carved centuries ago, still communicates calmness and presence despite the violence that fractured the statue. Visitors to Ayutthaya encounter the giant head in designated museum spaces or protected areas within temple ruins. Standing close to it, one sees the scale of the carving, the curves of the cheeks, the shape of the eyelids, and the proportion of the forehead all reveal the precision of the original artisans. From a distance, the head appears monumental and silent, echoing the atmosphere of the city's overgrown courtyards and collapsed walls. For archaeologists, the head provides insight into the monumental sculptural traditions of the Ayutthaya period. Its scale, style, and material reflect a kingdom skilled in both religious devotion and large-scale engineering. The head stands as evidence of an architectural landscape once filled with towering statues, bright colors, and ceremonial movement, elements now largely lost to time. The 5,000-year-old Mother Goddess, megalith of Turkey. On the central plains of Turkey, where dry fields stretch toward a low horizon, and ancient mud brick mounds rise like quiet reminders of forgotten settlements, a recent discovery stirred new attention to one of the world's oldest archaeological sites. Kotol Hoyuk, famous for its dense prehistoric houses and symbolic clay figurines, has long been associated with images of fertility and the so-called Mother Goddess. For decades, these images were small, handheld objects made of clay or soft stone. But during a deeper excavation season on the eastern edge of the mound, archaeologists uncovered something far larger than any figurine found before, a monolithic stone carving more than 2 meters tall, shaped in the form of a seated female figure. The find stands apart from all previous discoveries at Kotol Hoyuk. While the site is known for compact domestic structures, painted walls, and symbolic burials under house floors, the presence of a large carved stone figure suggests a different scale of ritual activity. The megalith is carved from a single block of limestone weighing several tons. Its surface shows shaping marks consistent with stone tools, and its posture echoes the traditional seated Mother Goddess figurine seen in much smaller forms. The figure sits with broad hips, hands resting on the thighs, and a slight forward lean. The head is stylized, with simple facial features and a smooth surface. Even after thousands of years of erosion, the form remains clear. The monolith was found lying on its back within a shallow pit, partially buried by later settlement layers. Radiocarbon samples from surrounding soil place it around 3000 BCE, several centuries after the peak occupation of Kotol Hoyuk. This raises questions about who created the statue, whether it belonged to the original community, or whether it reflects a later group drawing inspiration from older traditions. The presence of obsidian flakes and animal bones near the statue suggests that the pit may have served as a ritual deposit, deliberately burying the megalith at the end of its ceremonial life. The carving itself reflects a blend of natural and symbolic design. The sculptors did not create a detailed anatomical figure. Instead, the form emphasizes major shapes, broad shoulders, tapered limbs, and an enlarged midsection. This mirrors the symbolic style of earlier figurines, which highlighted fertility or life-giving attributes rather than realistic bodies. But unlike those handheld figures, the megalith commands a presence suited for communal gatherings. Its size suggests that it once stood upright, possibly in an open courtyard or shrine area near the settlement. The limestone used for the statue does not originate from the immediate vicinity of the site. Geological analysis suggests that the block was transported from a quarry several kilometers away. Moving such a heavy stone would have required coordinated effort, wooden sleds, and a clear purpose. This level of collective labor indicates that the community considered the statue meaningful enough to justify the effort. If placed in a central location, the figure may have played a role in ceremonies connected to fertility, seasonal cycles, or ancestor traditions. Excavations around the find spot revealed traces of post holes and compacted earth floors. While not enough remains to reconstruct a full building, the pattern suggests that a structure or enclosure once surrounded the statue. The megalith may have stood as a focal point within a ceremonial courtyard. Its eventual burial could mark the end of its use, possibly linked to a change in community structure or belief systems. The symbolic meaning of the Mother Goddess at Kotol Hoyuk has long been debated. Early interpretations described the site as a matriarchal society centered around fertility cults. Later research challenged this idea, pointing out that the figurines were rare and may not represent a single overarching deity. The new megalith adds complexity to the discussion. Its size and placement hint at a more formalized ritual system than previously recognized, but the meaning remains open to interpretation. Archaeologists working on the statue note the careful shaping of the seat. The figure appears to sit on a raised base, carved as part of the same block. This design echoes the smaller clay figurines found in earlier layers, which often depicted women seated on thrones or benches. The continuity of this image across centuries suggests that certain visual concepts persisted long after the original Catalhuyuk community dispersed. The megalith may represent a cultural memory, an echo of older symbols reinterpreted by later groups living in the region. Tool marks on the statue help reconstruct the carving process. The sculptors used flint or obsidian blades to shape finer details. Broader strokes were made using pounding stones. Weathering has softened many of these marks, but enough remains to analyze the sequence of carving stages. The shaping appears deliberate, with clear attention to symmetry and proportion. Surrounding soil layers contain ash lenses, seeds, and animal bones, indicating periodic use of fire near the statue. This suggests that rituals may have included burning offerings or preparing food for ceremonial gatherings. The lack of domestic debris within the immediate area supports the idea that the space was set apart from everyday life. The discovery raises questions about the broader landscape of ritual in prehistoric Anatolia. Other sites in the region, such as Göbekli Tepe and Karahan Tepe, contain large anthropomorphic pillars and carved stone figures. While Catalhuyuk predates these monumental sites by several thousand years, the newly found megalith shows that large symbolic stone carvings existed in multiple contexts across Anatolia, though at different scales and times. The statue's burial provides another point of interest. Careful placement of stones around the pit suggests a deliberate closure ritual. Covering a statue of this scale indicates a transition in belief or a shift in settlement organization. Similar practices appear in other prehistoric sites, where large carvings were intentionally buried when no longer used. Today, the megalith remains under controlled excavation. Conservators work to stabilize cracks caused by long-term burial. The surrounding area will undergo detailed survey to reconstruct the original environment of the statue. The discovery continues to spark discussion among archaeologists about the nature of symbolism, ritual, and community identity in ancient Anatolia. The 5,000-year-old mother goddess megalith of Turkey stands as a surprising addition to a site once defined by small figurines and domestic structures. Its size, craftsmanship, and context reveal a community willing to reshape stone on a monumental scale for symbolic purposes. Whether it represented a deity, an ancestor, or an idealized figure of fertility, its presence adds a new dimension to our understanding of prehistoric ritual landscapes. The giant sphinx of Archaeological. On the northern plains of central Turkey, where rolling hills break into small valleys and Bronze Age mounds rise from farmland like watchful sentinels, stands one of Anatolia's oldest ceremonial gateways. At Archaeological, a major center of the Hittite world, two monumental sphinxes once guarded the entrance to a fortified complex. These stone figures, carved more than 3,300 years ago, represent one of the clearest expressions of Hittite power and religious identity. While weathered today, their scale and craftsmanship still create an unmistakable presence at the site's eastern gate. The sphinxes stand on either side of a long stone passageway that once led into the inner part of the settlement. Each figure is carved from large limestone blocks built directly into the gate walls. The bodies combine leonine strength with human features, forming a hybrid guardian similar to other protective creatures found throughout the ancient Near East. Their faces, framed by stylized hair and headdresses, appear forward-looking, projecting authority over anyone entering the city. Even after centuries of erosion, the eyes, cheeks, and carved lines of the mouth remain recognizable. The gateway was constructed during the Hittite Empire, around the 14th century BCE. At that time, Archaeological served as an important regional center, possibly a royal residence or administrative capital. The presence of monumental guardian figures at the entrance reflects its significance. The sphinxes were positioned to watch over both visitors and residents, marking the passage from the outside world into a controlled ceremonial space. Their size, carved features, and integration into the masonry reveal the architectural sophistication of the Hittites. Close analysis of the stones shows how the figures were created. Craftsmen shaped the limestone blocks before assembling them into the wall. They carved the head and upper body in high relief, leaving the lower body partially embedded in the gate structure. This technique allowed the sphinxes to appear integrated with the architectural frame, giving them both stability and visual impact. Tool marks show a combination of broad chiseling for rough shaping and finer carving for facial details and decorative elements. The faces of the sphinxes follow a distinct Hittite artistic style. The eyes are almond-shaped, positioned under well-defined brows. The nose and mouth are simplified but expressive. The headdresses include horizontal bands and patterns that may have held symbolic meaning. The bodies, though less detailed, show the curved chest and muscular forelimbs of a lion. The combination of human and animal features reflects the Hittite approach to divine guardianship. These hybrid figures were seen as mediators between the physical and spiritual worlds, capable of protecting sacred spaces. Archaeological excavations around the gate revealed additional carvings and reliefs. Stone orthostats, large upright slabs carved with scenes of animals, chariots, and ritual activities, line the lower walls. These reliefs form part of a broader ceremonial program that guided movement through the city. The sphinxes served as the symbolic climax of this sequence, framing the final threshold before entering the central complex. Their presence reinforced the idea that entry into the city required passing under the watch of supernatural protectors. The gate was part of a larger fortified settlement. Excavations revealed storage rooms, administrative buildings, and courtyards inside the enclosure. The sphinxes guarded a community that played a key role in the political and economic networks of the Hittite Empire. Inscriptions and artifacts found elsewhere in the region suggest that Archaeological may have been connected to royal families and religious ceremonies. The sphinxes likely stood witness to official processions, diplomatic visits, and seasonal festivals. Weathering has taken its toll on the figures. Limestone is vulnerable to wind, rain, and temperature changes. Over time, sharp details eroded, and some sections cracked or broke away. Early travelers recorded the sphinxes in sketch form during the 19th century, showing that even then the carvings were worn. Modern conservation efforts aim to preserve the remaining features. Stabilization treatments and protective measures help prevent further decay. Detailed digital scans ensure that the current state of the sculptures is recorded for future study. The discovery of the sphinxes contributed to renewed interest in Hittite archaeology. When excavations began in the early 20th century, the monumental gateway attracted immediate attention due to its scale and craftsmanship. It became one of the most recognizable examples of Hittite art, revealing a cultural identity distinct from neighboring civilizations like the Egyptians or Mesopotamians. The sphinxes demonstrate the Hittites' ability to create monumental stone architecture that blended symbolic meaning with practical construction. Nearby finds include bronze standards, pottery, animal bones, and ritual objects. These artifacts help reconstruct life at Archaeological. The presence of ritual items suggests that ceremonies took place near the gate. The sphinxes may have served as guardians not only of the city, but also of sacred rituals performed within its walls. Their placement at a strategic point aligns with practices seen across the Hittite world, where monumental gateways marked important transitions within settlements. The symbolism of the sphinxes also reflects broader Hittite beliefs. The Hittite pantheon blended indigenous Anatolian gods with influences from neighboring cultures. Hybrid creatures like sphinxes, griffins, and lion-headed beings appear frequently in their art. These figures represented strength, protection, and divine oversight. By placing them at the city gate, the Hittites emphasized their view of the settlement as a protected space under the care of powerful supernatural forces. As visitors walk through Archaeological today, the sphinxes remain one of the site's most striking features. They stand flanking the reconstructed gate, offering a glimpse into how ancient people experienced the city's entrance. Passing between the massive stone figures, one can imagine the flow of caravans, officials, and ritual groups who once moved along the same passage. The quiet landscape surrounding the ruins adds a sense of continuity between past and present. The giant sphinx of Archaeological is more than an artifact of stone. It represents the engineering skill, symbolic vision, and cultural identity of a civilization that shaped Anatolia for centuries. Through careful excavation and preservation, archaeologists continue to uncover details about the city's layout, its role in the Hittite world, and the meaning behind the monumental guardians at its gate. Though weathered by time, the sphinxes maintain their presence. Their carved faces still watch over the ancient entrance, linking modern visitors to a world where stone guardians marked the boundary between everyday life and the sacred heart of a powerful Bronze Age community. The colossal gilded Buddha of Wat Pho, Thailand. In the center of Bangkok, surrounded by temples, courtyards, and shaded walkways, lies one of Thailand's most iconic religious monuments, the colossal gilded reclining Buddha of Wat Pho. Measuring 46 meters in length and covered entirely in gold leaf, the statue fills an entire hall, leaving visitors to walk carefully around its immense form. For more than 2 centuries, this figure has represented not only spiritual devotion but also the craftsmanship and cultural identity of the early Rattanakosin period. Its scale, design, and setting create an atmosphere unlike any other monument in Southeast Asia. Wat Pho, one of the oldest temple complexes in Bangkok, stands on a site that held religious significance long before the current structures were built. When King Rama I established Bangkok as the new capital in the late 18th century, he began renovating earlier temples into a royal monastery. Later kings continued to expand the complex, adding shrines, stupas, courtyards, and education halls. During the reign of King Rama III in the early 19th century, the temple's most famous monument was constructed, the giant reclining Buddha. This statue would become the heart of the entire complex. The Buddha is depicted in the posture of entering parinirvana, the moment of final liberation at the end of the Buddha's life. This reclining pose is significant in Buddhist iconography, symbolizing peace, completion, and release from the cycle of rebirth. The statue's head rests on a support decorated with mosaic patterns, while the body stretches across the hall in a long, flowing curve. The serene expression, half-closed eyes, and gentle smile reflect a state of deep calm and awareness. The size of the statue makes the pose even more striking, as the Buddha's form extends beyond a visitor's field of vision. Constructed from brick and plaster, the statue is coated entirely in gold leaf. The application of gold was not only decorative, but symbolic. Gold represents purity, enlightenment, and the radiance of the Buddha's teachings. The shimmering surface catches light from windows and lanterns, creating a soft glow that shifts with time of day. This golden finish required large quantities of materials and skilled artisans. Even today, maintenance involves reapplying gold leaf to areas worn down by humidity or age. One of the most intricate parts of the statue is the feet. Measuring over 5 meters long, the soles are decorated with mother-of-pearl panels inlaid with detailed scenes. These panels depict the 1008 auspicious symbols of the Buddha, including lotus designs, royal parasols, chariots, and cosmic diagrams. Each symbol has a specific meaning in Buddhist cosmology, representing qualities of enlightenment or aspects of the spiritual path. The mother-of-pearl craftsmanship required precise cutting and polishing of shell pieces, which were then set into lacquered surfaces. The feet serve as both a decorative feature and a teaching tool, reminding worshippers of the Buddha's qualities. Visitors walking around the statue pass along narrow corridors lined with murals and columns. The hall, called Viharn Phranan, was built to fit the statue with only limited space on either side. This close view allows people to observe details that might be lost in a larger hall. The dim lighting, polished floors, and echo of footsteps create a quiet atmosphere. The scale of the reclining Buddha invites reflection on impermanence and the passage of time, themes central to Buddhist thought. Wat Pho is also known for its educational role. In the 19th century, it became a center for traditional Thai medicine and massage. Hundreds of stone inscriptions and illustrations are mounted on walls throughout the complex, showing points of massage therapy, herbal treatments, and yoga poses. The reclining Buddha stands within this environment of learning, connecting physical well-being, spiritual practice, and cultural heritage. Archaeological and historical studies help explain the statue's construction methods. The brick core formed the basic shape, built layer by layer, using mortar. Over this, artisans applied plaster to refine the contours of the face, torso, and limbs. Once the form was complete, gold leaf was applied to every surface. Records from the period mention teams of craftsmen working on different sections, each specializing in shaping, plastering, or gilding. The final result appears seamless, but it represents the combined skill of many individuals. In addition to the statue itself, the hall contains offerings, altars, and smaller Buddha images. Metal bowls line the corridor behind the statue, where visitors place coins as acts of merit-making. The gentle sound of coins dropping into the bowls creates a rhythmic background to the calm interior. These practices reflect the continuing role of the temple as an active religious site rather than simply a historical monument. The reclining Buddha has survived environmental challenges, including humidity, flooding, and temperature changes. Conservation teams regularly inspect the surface for cracks or areas where gold leaf has thinned. They update protective measures to ensure that the plaster core remains stable. Modern techniques, including high-resolution imaging, help preserve the statue's details. Despite its age and scale, the statue remains in stable condition due to ongoing care from temple staff and heritage specialists. The statue also reflects cultural connections across Southeast Asia. Reclining Buddha images appear in Myanmar, Laos, Sri Lanka, and Cambodia, each with unique local styles. The Wat Pho version stands out for its size, elegance, and gilded surface. Its construction during the early Bangkok period shows how Thai artisans adapted earlier traditions to express royal devotion and urban identity. As a religious symbol, the reclining Buddha represents not just the end of the Buddha's life, but also the idea of tranquility amid impermanence. This message resonates with visitors today. The hall becomes a space of stillness within the busy city outside. People sit quietly along the walkway, observing the statue's scale and details. The curve of the reclining form, the golden surface, and the calm expression create a sense of serenity, rarely found in modern urban settings. In archaeological terms, the statue provides insight into how early Bangkok craftsmen approached large-scale construction. The use of brick and plaster mirrors traditional temple building techniques. The gold leaf reflects royal patronage, indicating that the project was a major investment of resources. The careful placement of mother of pearl on the feet shows the importance of symbolic detail. Combined, these elements help researchers understand the craftsmanship of the period. Today, the reclining Buddha remains one of Thailand's most visited and admired monuments. It stands as a testament to the country's artistic heritage, religious devotion, and cultural continuity. The statue's presence within the larger Wat Pho complex connects past and present, offering a quiet reminder of the values that shaped the early Ratanakosin era. The colossal gilded Buddha of Wat Pho continues to inspire with its scale, craftsmanship, and calm expression. It remains a landmark of Thailand's spiritual landscape, inviting reflection on the teachings of the Buddha and the enduring legacy of the artisans who shaped its golden form.